Opportunity that we have as citizens, or as you do, as appointed by the Board of County Commissioners to address a very important topic for our community, is the site selection, proposed site selection for the Confederate statute that's located at the Putnam County Courthouse. As you know, there's been a lot of information that's been presented about this this effort, and today we will all have the opportunity to hopefully make at least 3 recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners, which has their meeting, their next meeting would be next Tuesday, and a meeting after that on the 27th. Certainly not mandating us to finish today, but we do have an opportunity to meet as often as we need to get this proposal put together. So without further ado, I'd like to get started by calling the meeting to order, and for us to rise, and for Mary, please, if you'd lead us in a prayer before our Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. Our Father in heaven, we come before Thee this day with gratitude in our hearts for the many blessings that we've been given, for those blessings which are realized and unrealized. We're grateful for the country that we live in and for the opportunities that it affords us. We're grateful for this privilege of being able to assemble together with different varying opinions and pray that Thy Spirit might be here, that we might have the spirit of discernment, the spirit of civility, and come together as one. We ask Thee at this time to be with those who are not here but wish to be here in spirit, that whatever their needs are might be met. And we ask Thee at this time to be with our leaders, both nationally and locally. Give them strength and health that they might carry out the best that they can. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Colonel, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. So, as I mentioned, we have a mandate from the board to evaluate potential locations for the statute. If I look and listen, we were tasked to identify at least 3, if we could, locations. And those locations can be here in Putnam County, and they also could include the statute remaining where it is. That's totally up to what this panel, this group, or this committee agrees upon. So we will move forward with that. Anything that I can help you with, whether we need to look at properties via computer overheads right now, whether we need to make a field trip somewhere to look at a property, please let me know what your wishes are, and I will handle them for you. And I look forward to serving you in this capacity, and I had the recent honor of serving in this capacity for the Fire EMS Committee, and I think, again, with a great group of people that we can collectively come together, honor those opinions and thoughts and holdings of others, and come up with the best decisions that we can for this community, and making that presentation to the Board of County Commissioners. One of the things that the board did also talk about was that this statute would not be moved until funding is identified and secured. And one of the things that I made sure through my discussions with the board and staff was that this committee is not tasked with identifying funding sources, costs, estimates, anything, engineering, companies that could potentially move it. Your charge truly is to identify a location or locations, and then we'd make that presentation to the board when this committee feels that it's prepared to do so. So that's where we are today. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, I thank you again for agreeing to serve in this capacity. And if there are no questions at this point, I'd like to go ahead and get started. And I would like to get started by identifying some paperwork that I've given you. I just want to make sure everybody has the same. Everybody should have an agenda for today. I've also given you a Robert's Rules cheat sheet for Robert's Rules of Order, and we'll discuss those in a few minutes. And if you don't have them, I'll be glad to give them to you. A board packet that's signed, or it's not signed, but the name of Terry Suggs, County Administrator, is on the bottom. We'll discuss that. And I also gave you a handout. Yours is not in red. I did it in color. But for this, these are locations, county locations, or potential locations in the county as a request by one of the board members. Does anybody not have one of those 4 documents? Very good. So, I'd like the opportunity now to introduce myself to you a little bit more, and then from there I'd like the group, I think that's important that we get to know who we are. Just talk a little bit about yourself and just a brief introduction, and I'll get started. My name is Jim Troiano, and I have been with Putnam County for almost 10 months now. I am currently the Executive Director for Planning and Development, which covers planning, zoning, permitting, codes enforcement, building inspection, and animal control. There's a lot going on in that area, and I'm very pleased to lead it. I've got a great team, and we're doing good work here at the county. Prior to that, I worked for a couple of years with the Water Management District. I was an intergovernmental coordinator. My office was here in Palatka, and I served 4 communities, 4 counties, should I say, Alachua, Flagler, Marion, and Putnam. And through my role, I had a great opportunity to meet many of you, or some of you, should I say, in this room, and worked with you on different legislative projects concerning water and environment. And then prior to that, I was in law enforcement for a little over 30 years. I began my career with the Florida Department of Corrections, moved to the Alachua County Sheriff's Office where I spent 20 years, left there and became police chief in a town just northwest of Gainesville called High Springs. I've retired once, went back into law enforcement again in Flagler County for nearly 3.5 years. And then I said, well, I want to try something a little different, and this is certainly much different than law enforcement. I'm currently a reserve police officer with the Crescent City Police Department to keep my certification and standards up, and I help them with training and needs of the agency. So that's a little bit about me and my role here, again, today as your facilitator and to help us get through the processes today. So if I can, to my left, if you wouldn't mind, please, introducing yourself. And just give us a little bit about you.
I'm Mary Ann Braddock from Crescent City. Our family's been there since...
Sorry, your microphone, man. Just make sure it's turned on. There you go.
I'm Mary Ann Braddock from Crescent City. My family's been there since the 1850s. It's home, as is Putnam County. An area that I absolutely cherish. It's so very unique in today's world, and to hold on to that is terribly important.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
I'm Danny Burns. I'm a farmer over in the Federal Point area. Been around this area all my life. Went to school in Hastings, farmed in Federal Point and Orange Mills, East Palatka area. And I guess that's about it. That's who I am, and that's what I do.
Well, thank you, sir. Miss Stella?
I'm Stella Brown with the Putnam County Library System. I reside in Interlochen, Florida. I've been in the library system over 30 years, and that's basically been my life since I graduated from high school.
Thank you, Stella. Colonel?
Good morning. So I'm Joseph Wells. For those y'all don't know me, probably associate me with my professional position as the Chief Deputy at the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. However, I want to just say that I'm not here representing the sheriff or the sheriff's office, but as a citizen of Putnam County who is a transplant here after being born and raised in St. Johns County, but I now consider this home and love and cherish the opportunity to live in this county, and just looking forward to the decisions that we can come together on here. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Leota Wilkinson, and I grew up here, went to school here. We have 3 sons, raised all 3 of our kids here in Putnam County. My husband and I own a small business here in Palatka, and I'm also a licensed real estate agent. So nice to see everybody.
Sir?
Good morning. My name is David Wade. I'm a lifelong citizen of Putnam County. I've raised 6 children here in Putnam County. Recently just had a birth of a grandchild day before yesterday, 6 pounds, 2 ounces, Juliana Wade. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And all my children are of voting age, and all of our, I hope, are of like mind of myself, but certainly I can't speak for them. But I've been raised here in Putnam County all my life. Been pretty active in school issues and pretty outspoken, and that's me.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Good morning, I'm a lifelong resident here in Putnam County. I live in
Microphone, ma'am, please. And you can move it down if you want towards you. There you go.
Good morning.
That's better. Wow.
I am Cynthia Asia, a lifelong resident of Putnam County. I reside in San Mateo. I retired from the Putnam County School District with 35 years. I know several people here. I was a classroom teacher, guidance counselor, principal, district administrator, elementary ed through high school, actually. And I have loved living here in Putnam County. I have seen all phases and all transitions throughout my years here in Putnam County, and I am privileged to have been asked to serve on this board and work with the fellow members here. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am?
Good morning. My name's Shree Register. I'm a native Floridian, just like Mary Ann down there. My people came before Florida became a state. I actually live on the property that my great-great-great-grandparents settled. I've been real involved in history all my life. Some of y'all might have known Marjorie Neal Nelson, who was the city historian down in Crescent City for years. I've actually got the notebook of the minutes and everything dealing with the Confederate monument, the roots of the entire thing. So I'm honored to be asked to serve on this committee.
Okay. That's it, ma'am? Ma'am?
I'm Lorraine Carr, and my family has been in Putnam County for over 100 years. My mother was bookkeeper for a city drugstore for over 50 years. So I grew up downtown, and I also had a quilt shop downtown. So I've seen the heyday of Palaca and the downturn. And I'd like to see that we could get something done about the monument once and for all in an appropriate place and everything. So I appreciate being on the committee.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Mary Reese. I did not grow up here, but my roots go deep here. My Gornto and King line came in the 1800s. My McGrath line were latecomers in 1912. So whenever we would come back, home was East Palatka to stay with Grandma when my dad was TDY for a year or so. So it was kind of home base and a touching point. And it's a place that I've always loved. I'm very into genealogy and to history, being on the Historical Society Board and the Genealogical Board. I was over the expo, if any of you went to the Genealogical and Historical Expo back in February. I appreciate being here and getting to know each of you and to helping our community come together and be one.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Good
And
morning.
last but not least,
Good morning. My name is LaToya Robinson. I am, I believe, the fourth generation of being in Putnam County, Palaca. Raised here, went to school here, served on a few community organizations, and 16 years in child welfare.
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Impressive. Thank you very much for each sharing a little bit about yourselves and your commitment to this committee. Moving on to our next area would be overview of Florida sunshine laws and how it pertains to you. So in my, I should say maybe it was my initial email, I sent you all a packet of information sent you several things, an agenda and this packet of information, and also gave it to you today for review. Does anyone have any questions concerning this and how, as a committee member, sunshine laws apply to us as a committee? If there are any questions? I think the thumbnail sketch of this for all of us is that, we cannot be discussing the matters of this committee outside the confines of this committee with committee members. And there's a whole list of things that go along with that, but if you kind of stay within those parameters of just the understanding of what this says and our obligation to ensure that our discussions are here, other than your private discussions you may have with family or friends, just not with other committee members outside this meeting. If there are any questions that anybody may have, I can certainly present them to our county attorney and present that to him and see what other recommendations that I get back. So are there any questions about public records and how they apply to us? Seeing and hearing none? Okay. So another sheet that I've given each one of you is a cheat sheet called Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheet. And it's also really contained in this document that we just discussed. Is everybody familiar with Robert's Rules of Order, how they work? I see everybody kind of shaking their head in the right direction. Good. So what I'd like to do at this time is, as a committee, we'll need a chair. I'm your facilitator. I can certainly push forward with those duties and responsibilities. However, there is an obligation, or at least an opportunity for us to select a chair, if necessary, for this committee. As a group, my job is to gather the information, give it to you, help you through that decision-making process. I tender that to you at this time for the selection of a chair, if you would like one as a committee, and we can look at taking our first vote to move in that direction, whether we move to elect a chair or whether we keep it and I facilitate for you. So I leave that choice and selection up to you.
I'm fine with you being the chair as facilitator.
Oh, as a facilitator? Okay. Any concerns with that?
No, I would concur. I think that would keep the flow smooth and keep us very organized.
So if we could, can we take our first vote then? Can I have a motion, should I say, for that from someone on the committee?
I would like to make the motion.
And I second.
Okay, please state your motion for me, Stella. Sorry.
I would like the motion that Drew remain as the facilitator.
Okay, and the duties of chair, if I may ask you to
Duties of
amend?
chair.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Okay, I'm sorry, which lady would like to?
Cynthia.
Okay, Cynthia? Okay, making a second. Is there any discussion about this matter? So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. My next part of the agenda is citizen comment. Now, there's been a lot of citizen comment on this from the very beginning. We've had peaceful rallies and protests in this community, and it's truly from everybody working together that we did great, and people had the opportunity to get their messages out on both sides. And so people still have an opportunity to present information. And there's been a lot of information that's been presented to us, the Board of County Commissioners, on direction, and that information was passed along to the board members individually. We do have a website, we have a email address that's set up that people could use. It's BOCC meeting comments at putnam-fl.com. And so we have received some through that, but none of recent. So we do have some members of the public that are here. Again, this is a broadcast meeting on YouTube so people can watch. There's not an opportunity for them to call in at this time since it's an open public meeting. We can take public comment if that's what this committee wants to do. Much like in the fire committee, we decided to take citizen comment at the end of the process. However, you're not bound to do that. So I, again, will present to you as a committee your thoughts on citizen comment, and if you want to take it, how would you like to receive it? Again, we're looking at a meeting today. We potentially have future meetings. Any future meetings that we do have, we'll have the opportunity to still receive email comment. So I send it back to the committee for your thoughts on How would you like to receive citizen comment, ma'am?
I think we should, let the people have a voice in it.
Okay. Others? Danny?
I think maybe it would be better to receive ideas from the public in writing. Maybe put an ad in the paper, or notice in the paper, and let them send them to you.
Okay.
You could email them out to us. Once you had several of them, we could look them over and talk about them at the next meeting. Because if we ask the public to come in, of course, we don't have anybody here today, but if we had a big crowd and everybody with a lot of ideas, it might turn into a long, drawn-out affair.
Members of the public here, in addition to Sam representing, so,
Yeah.
okay, so I have your comments here, and sir, I have yours. So anyone else want to weigh in on this matter and push us in the direction of coming to some kind of,
You want a motion?
unless nobody else has comments.
I do.
I'm sorry. Stella, go ahead.
I think it's good to have the public comment section, but I also think it should be limited to how long the public can speak, just like we do in the county commission.
Okay, so for the board meetings, we limit to 3 minutes. We do require certain information, so I would say name and address, and of course, limiting to 3 minutes. That's a certain option for you, okay? Leota?
I just wanted to, actually what Stella was saying, but also I certainly would welcome public coming in and make comments. I don't know that we should spend time doing a newspaper ad and all of that. I think that everybody knows that the committee's here. It's been in the newspaper several times, and I think that if they want to comment, they could either email in or show up and make comment.
Okay. Now, just so you know, and I have passed along to you the stories in the Palatka Daily News. On our social media, our Facebook account, we have been placed a meeting notice, so the general public would not just read it in the paper. It's on our website, and they also can, on our calendar, and it's also on our social media. So we have options to get our message out. And yes, sir?
Excuse me, I'm also for public participation at a level that people could come into in person and voice their opinions. I'm also have got a statement that I'd like to give to you as the board chair and as a facilitator. If the opportune time is now or whether it be later, I'd like to give that statement.
If you could just hold on to that, and I'll certainly give you an opportunity as soon as we can address this matter.
Right.
Unless your statement is in reference to citizen comment.
It is reference to citizen participation and board members on this committee.
If you think it's germane to this part and that we need to hear that before we take a vote,
It
absolutely.
certainly is germane to this committee and part of its membership.
Okay, so if you'll just hold on a second, is there any other comments before we entertain his comments? Seeing none, okay. Sir, please.
Okay. Certainly, my comments here don't reflect any type of racial issue. They only represent my view and part of my family's view. As we gather here in a
Sir, just if I may, I don't mean to interrupt you. Is this absolutely germane to citizen participation that we need to take a vote on, or is this a general statement you'd like to make about the totality of the issue? I'd like you to be not interrupted, but I do want to resolve the
It's an issue that you can resolve, should you choose to.
Okay.
And I think it needs to be resolved before any further progress of this meeting takes place.
Committee members okay with that? Okay, sir, please.
As
Sorry
we
for
gather here in a voluntary status as a group of citizens who represent Putnam County in a quest to us from the Board of County Commissioners, who absolve themselves from the due diligence of a decision in the statute matter at our courthouse, has brought to the attention to the commission by Palatka's part-time radicalized mayor, Terrell Hill. However, in my opinion, this group of 11 is being compromised by one of its own members, being the mother of one of the leaders of the BLM movement, that is Terrell Adams, and Miss Robinson, his mother is also an active participant in that group, Thus, the group here, I feel like, would be tainted by any type of decision-making process that she has and her participation in this group and the decision-making process that it entails, in my opinion, is quite apparently tainted. A conflict of interest I do cite. As an organization that could levy a qualified, impartial judgment and not equally represented by any other group, such as the Chamber of Commerce, the Elks Club, the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Knights of Columbus, etc. And if this member is allowed a voice in this committee, I must cite a foul and relinquish myself of the group above as to a more deserving or better qualified person. I render this meeting moot and give it back to the Putnam County Commissioners and taxpayers to vote on this issue in the next election. I do cite that I have my opinion on 3 spots for the relocation if necessary, but the primary spot being where it's at, leave it alone.
Okay, sir, so the topic was citizen comment and participation. So you would like no longer to be participating on this board?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if this board doesn't reach a consensus that one of its members is a tainted member and doesn't represent the due diligence of the entire committee because of that taint, that I would consider sacrificing my position, my voice on the committee.
Okay.
But I do think that under the circumstances that maybe a vote be taken on the membership of that person as not qualified to participate or have a vote. And possibly because of the circumstances, that'd be a secret ballot.
Okay. So it is not our position to determine whether an individual can or cannot be on this board. I believe the board has made it clear each board member had an opportunity to pick representatives that was voted upon in a public hearing. These individuals were seated based on their request and the direction of the board. So, sir, I have a committee of 11 that's been selected by the Board of County Commissioners. It's not our position. We do not have the power, in my opinion, and I'll certainly ask the members of this committee that. I don't believe we have the power to eject and remove an individual from this committee. We have been tasked to move forward with these 11, and that's my direction. Unless I see anything else from any of the members here, I don't see that as being germane. Certainly appreciate your comments. They're on record, but we cannot move forward with that. I see no jurisdiction to be able to do that.
I understand that the word germane is a very large word, but I understand that the results of this committee and the 11 members that will vote on the moving or not moving of the statute is relative to the decision of these members today, not tomorrow.
I understand that. So if there's no other comment on this? Seeing none from the committee? Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. They're in the record. So I would then ask this committee to consider citizen comment, as we had discussed prior to. How would you like to, we've discussed it to a point, how would you like to resolve this matter for citizen comment? Certainly someone can make a motion and we can get started in that direction.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept citizens' comments, limit to the 3-minute rule, and filling out the form ahead of time.
Okay. If I can ask just a little bit more clarification on that, would you like it during the meeting, at the end of the meeting? How would you like to receive, in addition to whatever we may receive in email moving forward, how would you like to receive that today so we could potentially not be interrupted or have the interruptions as you would see fit?
I think how you have it listed here on your agenda before we actually start discussing.
Very good. So your motion is then truly stated? A second for that motion?
I second her motion.
We do have a second. Any discussion?
Yes, please, just a point of clarification.
Colonel?
I understand that portion of the motion, but does the motion include a mechanism to accept public comment from those that don't have the opportunity to attend the meeting?
Very good.
That would be in an interest of mine to have public comment from those that may not be available to attend.
Would you be willing to amend your motion, ma'am?
Yes, amend the motion to accept comments by email, and Zoom. Are we doing it on the?
No, ma'am. Although it's on YouTube, we're not using Zoom today. So we do have the opportunity to check our BOCC meeting comments at putnam-fl.com. We can do that. Very good. Joe, is that good?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, ma'am, would you amend your motion then to agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have an amended motion. Who made the second? Are you agreeing still with that?
Yes, I second the amended motion.
Very good. Any other discussion? So moving forward, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion does carry unanimously. So if it is at that point, we do have two members of the general public that are with us. Ladies, would you like to speak? So if you would, you're welcome to come up to the microphone. I just ask you, and you can fill this out in a minute for me, if you could please, just state your name and your address for me, please. And then when you're done, you're welcome to just fill one of these out. You can come up first. When you're finished, you can fill that out. Your name and your address, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Sheila Beck. My address is 185 County Road 309C, Palaca, Florida. Although I am not a lifetime resident here, I came from New Jersey. Most of you, I also run the Defend Putnam on Facebook. I also, with my co-partner over there, and I run Stand Your Ground Putnam County. I'm sure most of you have known or will know that we have been out. Our group's been out. We've been waving flags. We've been doing what we have to do. That, on the note that Mr. Wade said, I wholeheartedly believe that, no offense, but Ms. LaToya is a very biased committee member. She has posted on her page, she will stand side by side with her son's trouble causing. We have our mayor who has been standing beside her son. We, as the majority of this community, that Terry Hill said during their meeting that they were just going to let the statue be moved, but they had to come up with the money privately, not from Carl Flagg, not from all these big, high people that have all this money. I have no money, so it don't matter to me, but when you have two young, and they are still children, they're not full-blown adults, they were taught what they believe. They were taught. There has nobody ever been hung from that tree at that courthouse, and that statue has been there for as long as I've been here, and that's 22 years, and I know it's been here way before that. Now, all of a sudden, the black community is offended by walking up the courthouse stairs. I'm sorry, y'all, keep yourself out of trouble, and you ain't gotta walk past it.
Jim,
Plain and simple. I don't know what I would do in y'all's situation. I know what I'm doing in my situation, and I'm gonna be out there, and I'm gonna be standing around that statue, and I'm gonna be defending that statue until it's moved, until what y'all ever decide. But when it's moved, I'll bet you that we have our group walking behind it. We're not gonna get run off. We're not scared.
Ma'am, would you like to finish up, please? You're at your time.
I just want you all to think about the history behind that. It was about the people that fought for you, you, and did not come home. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anybody else like to speak? That's it? Okay. Makes this job a little bit easier. Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I interject a point?
You will. Just want to make sure that I'm going to close citizen comment at this point. Okay, you may, sir, please, your comment.
In reference to what she said, there were 630,000 lives given during the Civil War, white and black, Hispanic, etc. To present that statue by the Daughters of the Confederacy, and it's been there, I think, since 1926, almost 100 years. To deprive those people of their opinion and sanction of that statue being put on the courthouse lawn where it was and where it needs to stay, in my opinion, is not, I think, a voice for a minority group of any type to put forward. It represents the voice of this community in a whole, or a vote of its people. Again, the 630 lives that were given during the Civil War, white and black, green, red, doesn't matter. We're citing, or I'm citing, a foul that is given simply by our mayor, who is radicalized, and
Sir,
I'd like
if
to...
I just may, our direction here today is not to rehash the issues of what happened during the Civil War. It's not to rehash the issues that have happened for the selection of this committee. Sir, and with all due respect, and our direction has been very clear, we're to work together collaboratively the best we can to move forward with a site selection for the potential relocation of the statue.
I understand. I'm fine-tuning her comments.
Sir, that's not the opportunity for you at this time. So I'd ask you at this point that we will stop any other discussion as far as fine-tuning her comments. She's made her comments.
That's
It's
right.
public comment. It's in the record. I'd say it's our point in time now, respectfully, for us to move forward to identify a location potentially for the statue to be.
I understand, but you're sequestering my opinion to fine-tune her comments, and that's very objective to me.
Are you finished with your comments, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with no more citizen comment, we do move into the site selection discussion portion of this meeting. As I initially started out, and as you know, as being contacted individually by a representative of this board, it's yours, should I say, opportunity to identify, if you can, at least 3, if we can, potential locations for the statue to be removed. I have a comment, and I'll read to you in a second, from someone that does not live in this county that potentially has an opportunity for where the statue can be moved to. So we have, if you look at it, we have opportunities here in this community, Putnam County. We have potentially other counties to look at. That opens up a whole nother area, avenue of discussion that's certainly not within the power of this board to move forward with, so I ask you to keep that in mind. And we also have the ability to, in our recommendation to, and I'm not making this recommendation, it's going to stay there until funding is available to move it. So this committee has an opportunity to choose a lot, but we do need to move forward and work together to identify at least 3 locations. And I leave that up to you. So at this point, if I may, I'd like to read an email that was sent to Commissioner Larry Harvey on September 9th. I'm sorry, it was sent to me on September 9th. It was a message received earlier. This is a message by Ms. Frances. It says, Ms. Frances Mundy called with a suggestion on where the statute should be placed. She is suggesting the cemetery in Orange Springs. She stated that right next to that cemetery is the oldest active church. She stated there is a lot of history at that place, and she would love to see it move to that location. And she could be reached at 352-546-1344. Now, I did speak with her. She stated she's a retired teacher. Her age, she did mention, she's 78. She did mention that this is just a suggestion and wanted to make sure that the committee would hear this. And so I'm obliging her request. Orange Springs, she states, and I have not done my research, is the oldest active church. It was a hospital during the Civil War. The cemetery does have Civil War soldiers buried there, is what she was told. And apparently the Civic Center of Orange Springs runs or owns that particular cemetery, which is next to the Orange Springs Community Church. So that's the only information that I have, and I wanted to present that to you so you can have in your arsenal of your toolbox of potential locations. So one of the things, and I'm sorry I didn't do this before, and I do offer you my apology, is our cell phones. If you have a cell phone, can you please put it on silent for me so we won't have any interruptions? And the other thing was breaks. Now, I did tell you we would be here for about, I've slated 4 hours. I don't know how long this is going to take, at least for today. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to have that decision-making time and the discussion ability between everyone. So we've been meeting a little less than an hour. So what is the direction of the committee? Would you like to take breaks? Would you, again, as I mentioned, people, you're welcome to leave and go into the restroom on your own. But would you like to take breaks at the hour? Would you like to take breaks at the 2-hour mark? I just want to make sure that I am accommodating everyone here appropriately. Any thoughts or comments? We don't need to take a vote. This would be rather informal.
After every hour? Oh, well, I was going to actually say that,
Okay.
just to stretch. I mean,
Sure.
Thank
Do
you.
I kind of see head shaking in the right direction? So, all right, so is that okay with you on the hour? Okay. So I will try to keep track of that, but if I go past that time, can someone please remind me? And I will make sure that we stop and we'll take about a 10-minute break for us to stretch our legs. All right. So now, truly, committee, this is what you have been empaneled to do. This is the opportunity for you to discuss.
Jim,
Site
may
selection.
I
Yes, ma'am.
ask a question regarding the email?
Oh, yes, ma'am, absolutely.
It said that it was a hospital during the Civil War, and it said it was run by, and I didn't get that part.
So, and again, just from my notes almost a month ago, she said it was the oldest active church. It was a hospital during the Civil War. A cemetery is there that does have Civil War soldiers buried there. And again, that's her, what she's been told. She does not have actual proof as to that. So I did not go any further, and I was going to leave it up to the committee. Since this is in Marion County, not in Putnam County.
Orange Springs?
This is in,
Okay, well, scratch that.
This is a Putnam County issue.
yeah, that's correct.
that.
I understand what you're saying. I just wanted you to know and have this, and if that's the direction of this committee, to keep it here in Putnam County.
Yeah.
Do I see? Comment? Yes, ma'am?
So, didn't we receive direction from the Board of County Commissioners as to it has to be on county property?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
We did not?
Not to my understanding, had to be on, could have been on private property, I also understood. So I think those were all left open. I didn't know that it had to be on county property. After our break, I will call and
Please check on that,
check
because
on
I
that.
was, and I could be wrong, but I would like some clarity on that.
Okay.
I was under the understanding that it couldn't be on city-owned property, that it had to be on Putnam County property.
All right.
So that's a big question for us.
So I can, if you would like to take an early break, I will go.
Understanding too, it had to be on county property.
Mine
I
as
will,
well.
I will get an interpretation on that. So if you'd like to take a break so we can accurately address this topic, is that good with you all? We'll take a quick break and I'll go make
My
some.
understanding on,
Okay.
Hang on 1 second. Sorry, sir.
What are we trying to figure out?
Whether our selection has to be only on county property.
I think that's true, but
I will double check. I'm
Yeah.
just not certain about that.
my understanding of it, that the county wanted and wished to keep it on Putnam County property to resolve the issue that Palatka and its mayor had with it being on Palatka's
Okay.
issue. But also a point of clarity I'd like to clarify.
Sure.
You mentioned on several different occasions that there was not going to be any Putnam County money spent, that the money would come from donations that were acquired.
If I
But-
could clarify, not county money, not
Right.
government money. Yes, sir.
Not government or county money. But you also were quite clear, if I understand you correctly, that those donations were not to be divulged. And I,
No,
did
sir, I'm
I
sorry,
under-
if I misunderstood you, or if I presented it incorrectly, I do apologize. Those donations, we're not gonna keep track of who's making donations. It's not this committee's responsibility to solicit money for that. If someone wants to make a donation and put it in a bank account for this process, that's their prerogative.
Well,
We, the
you're-
county, are not collecting funds for it.
But you, the county, and we, the people of the county, are being held hostage. One person could come and pay the entire money for the movement, and that disqualifies anything that we have to say, because the movement is now adhered to.
think
We're
that's
gonna move the county, we're gonna move the statue if you get the money.
That's the direction currently by the board. However, that's a board decision to make yet, so that's not our decision. And that would be left up to the board. If that's what those 5 county commissioners want to do, then that would be the power of the board to move forward.
I understand, but again, clarification in my mind one more time is that one person or one group of persons could put up the money to move the statue, and all the due diligence that we have here would be moot.
Yes for part of that, no for the other part, if I may.
Well, we would have a say-so into where it goes, maybe.
That's correct.
Maybe.
Well, we would have a say, but it's left up to the board to use your recommendation, collective recommendation, to move us forward. That's correct.
Okay.
All right? So let's take a break real quick. Let's take a 10-minute break, maybe just a little bit longer. Let me get some clarification on the question of whether it was the board's direction to keep it in or on, let me just clarify this. Keeping it on county-owned property is what you think the,
That's what we
very
were
good.
told.
Let me get clarification on that, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes. If it takes me a little longer, it may, until I can get some clarification. So, ma'am?
Will you also clarify if we do have other options, if a location outside of Putnam County was suggested, if we can, use that as well?
Certainly, I will. Okay, let's go ahead and stand in recess for at least 10 minutes. It may take a little longer. Again, restrooms in the back. There are restrooms out front. And I will see you all in a couple minutes. There's plenty of water up here, so please take whatever water you'd like. Ladies, Committee members, I'd like to go ahead and bring the committee back to order. I am sorry for the delay. However, I have been able to find the last vote made by the board on this topic. And so in front of you, hopefully you can see on the screen,
Not turned on.
on the bottom. Can everybody see it?
No, ours isn't turned on.
Hey, Jacob?
Or black screen.
Okay, I thought it was just me.
No.
While we were getting their computers up and running, it's the latter part, should I say, it's the last paragraph on the bottom.
Excuse me, Jim. She doesn't have a monitor.
Okay?
And mine's blank.
Neither does she, but we
Okay,
share.
so I'll provide a copy, but I'll read it to
That'd be
everybody.
Oh, is that what it is?
Okay? So while Jacob's working on this, let me just read this to you. This is the board workshop on August 25th, 2020. And it says, this is according to the clerk, Commissioner Harvey's amended motion was to support the relocation of the Confederate monument utilizing private funds and to approve the formation of a citizens committee to make, this is made, but it should be make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners regarding the monument's relocation designation. Commissioner Pickens amended the seconded accordingly. The motion passed 4-1 with Commissioner Rawls opposing. So we've looked at the other meetings. There are no other votes that were taken on this. So Mr. Suggs, if you wouldn't mind, sure, I'll give a copy to everybody. So based on that, and this is being broadcast to folks that are on YouTube. I don't know if you, I guess you can't. There's no other monitor to turn around. So it's based on my understanding of this, that statute could be located anywhere. I find, again, no voted reference from the board to specify a location on county property. Now, there may have been discussion, but from a vote standpoint, that's the only vote that is on record for that. So that's the best, again, looking at the meetings, that's the information that I'm able to bring back to you. Sarah was able, who is the former clerk that took the minutes for this meeting, is the one that found them for me, and that's what I have to present to the committee. So I will be glad in a second. Mr. Suggs will come back, but again, I don't read that in there that it has to be specifically on county-owned property. And again, I'll read it. Commissioner Harvey's amended motion was to support the relocation of the Confederate monument utilizing private funds and to approve the formation of a citizens committee to make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners regarding the monument's relocation designation. Commissioner Pickens amended his second accordingly. The motion passed 4-1 with Commissioner Rawls opposing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
is this group of people of 11 here that have been empowered also empowered to take a vote on limiting the movement, if necessary, to Putnam County?
Absolutely. I think that's our next step that we need to look at, because we were
Can I
discussing it on
can
this
I make a
end.
motion to that effect now, or is the floor open to do that?
The floor is open to do that.
I'd like to make a motion that this, if the statute needs to be moved, which I don't think that it does, but in that opportunity to move it, that it be limited to the 3 locations in Putnam County, that this committee obliges to move it,
Okay.
if so.
Seconded.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second by Joe Wells. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor of keeping, if it is moved, that the statute will be relocated somewhere in the confines of Putnam County. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Aye. Okay, so it is 10-1 with the dissenting vote here as, okay, duly recorded.
Putnam County property, let me amend my motion, if you will.
Well, now we've taken a vote already, so
I'd like to amend my motion citing,
it would be a new motion.
yes, to cite,
Can you give me 1 second, sir?
yes.
Let's just get Mr. Suggs the opportunity to pass this out to everybody so we can make that happen. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
That's all right.
1 second. Thanks, Mr. Suggs. Okay, sir, the floor is now open again.
I'd like to make an amendment to my motion
Yes, sir,
citing,
it'd be a new motion.
a new motion, citing that if by chance the statue is voted on to be relocated, that it be relocated on property belonging, and I underscore belonging, to that of Putnam County.
Okay. We have a motion to, if the statute is to be relocated, that it be relocated to property owned. Would you go a step farther just by saying the Board of County Commissioners, Putnam County Board of County Commissioners?
Yes, by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay. So we have a proper motion that's been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Second, okay. Proper second made. Do we have any discussion?
Just a question for clarification, and it may be not anything different, but would that eliminate any property that might be owned by the Port Authority? I'm not sure what exactly the BOCC owns and what the Port Authority owns, but I know they own considerable property in Putnam County.
That's a good point.
I think that that's unqualified. It should be property that comes under the jurisdiction of Putnam County Commissioners and not by an outside source.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Suggs, please, to step up to the microphone, sir.
Good morning. To address the question directly, the property that is owned by the Board of County Commissioners is what's on the motion right now. If it is Port Authority property, it would need to go in front of the Port Authority at a publicly advertised meeting for that discussion. The board is the Port Authority, but they operate in a separate and complete authority at that point.
Well, then my motion stands.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs. All right, so the county administrator has given us some guidance. We have a motion. We have a proper second. We've had discussion. Anything else for a point of clarification? Seeing
I'm just
none?
trying, oh, I have a question.
Ma'am?
I need clarification on the difference between the first and the second motion.
Well, the first motion, if I may, was anywhere in Putnam County. The second motion is going to be specifically to property, if I may, that is owned by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners, government property.
Owned and governed by the Putnam County Commissioners. That is
Okay.
the new motion.
Thank you.
And so that any outside influence can't be given.
So, ma'am, does that help?
Yes.
Okay, is there any other need for discussion? Seeing none, I close the discussion portion, asking for a vote. All in favor of the new motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? Aye. Okay, again, motion passes 10-1, dissenting vote here on the corner. Very good. Okay, so we are now limited our scope for where this statute can be relocated to properties owned by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners, government property. Yes, sir.
Jim, would it be proper to make a motion now on a site?
Absolutely. We certainly
All
can.
right, I would like to move that the statute stay exactly where it is.
Okay.
I second that motion.
So we have a motion and a proper second to keep the statute where it is as a recommendation. Any discussion? Ma'am?
So are we sure that that's one of our options? Because relocation and a relocation committee doesn't, to me, that's two different things, relocation or staying. So do we have that ability?
We do. It's my opinion that we are going to choose 3 locations.
Okay.
We need to bring 3 locations making that decision. One of
Okay.
those could be,
Okay,
respectfully, that the statute stay where it is. That is a site selection.
okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
So we have a proper motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we have a second that it would stay at where it's at. We have a motion that it stays at the courthouse location.
Correct.
But I also bring to the attention of this board that that can be overturned by the commissioners simply by the monetary value of an outside source coming in and buying, if you will, their way into that statute.
And if I can, you're correct, but again, looking at this, we are making only a recommendation to the board. The board can accept the recommendations that we're making, or they can say, no, thank you, we're going to move in a separate direction.
Understand, but my point, I think, is relative to the decision that the board will have to make.
Correct. You're right. As far as from a monetary standpoint, there has to be funds from outside sources that are secured before the statute will be moved.
Gotcha.
Very good. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Yes, sir?
Well, I would just like to add, and this can't be part of our, this is not part of our charge, what I'm fixing to say, and can't be part of the motion, but I do think if they decided to go this route, and we need to have 2 more selections for them, because we need 3. But if we do decide to go this route and recommend that we leave the statue there, I think it would be a great thing to have some contextualization and some kind of way of making it known to the other side, the people that want it moved, that there's no hard feelings or feelings of racism or anything like that associated with this.
Okay.
But I mean, that's a separate thing, and that's not part of our charge, but I do believe that's entirely necessary.
Well, again, that would be left up to the board. I know that we've come here collectively with open minds to make decisions. So we do have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion relevant to the topic?
I'd like to make a new motion.
Nope.
No, we got to.
Sir, we
Okay.
still have to vote on this
Okay.
motion. So the motion, anybody need to rehear the motion? We're good? Yes. Rehear the motion? Yes, please. The motion is to keep the statute where it is at the Putnam County Courthouse. Current location. Is that correct, Mr.
That's
Motion
correct.
Maker? And that's the second that was made.
Right.
Just for clarification, so that would be one of the 3 options that would be presented
That's
if we were
correct.
to vote for that.
Correct.
And I just, under discussion, I certainly think that leaving the monument at the courthouse is an option that should be available to us as representatives of the county. I just wanted to clarify that because I think it's a little soon to make any type of final decision, and now I understand better that that will still rest at the county. I just want to make sure that, that we remain open-minded and fair and make an educated decision that I think is going to take more than a few minutes and perhaps more than one day to make, so that we can do the best we can to honor the impact, the feelings, and the emotions that surround this issue as we try to bring, Putnam County together as a whole. But I was just clarifying that would be one, because I do think that leaving it is a viable option.
Very good. Okay, hearing none, no other discussion necessary?
I'd like to make a motion, Your Honor.
No, sir, we still have to vote on this motion. We got to get it off the table. All right, so all in favor of one of our recommendations of keeping the statute at the Putnam County Courthouse? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Okay, nay and aye. Same sign is good. So I have 9 to 2. I'm sorry. Sir, 8-3. Okay. And the motion passes then in a favor of 8-3. Okay? So that's an option to keep the statute. So one of our options is statute at courthouse. All right, so what would our next,
Motion on the floor.
you haven't made one yet, but go ahead, sir.
I have 2 alternatives. If you want me to break them down into 2 motions, I will do that. Option number 2, my option is certainly in favor of number 1, but option number 2 would be to put it at the Highway 19 and 17 location, the entrance to the community by Triangle Park, the wall that welcomes people to Palatka.
Okay.
And option 3,
Let's do one at
Okay.
a time, please,
All right.
if we can. So just to clarify your motion, you would request it to be placed at Triangle Park.
as an option number 2. Not at Triangle Park, but at the entrance to the community there on the intersection of Highway 19 and Highway 17, where it says, "Welcome to Putnam County, welcome to Palatka," that wall that's there.
You're talking about placing it in front of that wall.
No, I'm talking about putting it elevated position behind that wall, in an elevated position, so it sees over the wall and it welcomes the people to Putnam County.
Okay? So if I may, your motion is to for our second location is to place the statute at that park behind the entrance sign that welcomes visitors to Putnam County, Palatka.
Yes, in an elevated position so that it's not hid behind the wall. I don't want my message to be sent that it be hid behind the wall, that it be in an elevated position, much like it is now, behind the wall that welcomes people to Putnam County.
Okay. There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Hearing none?
Second it.
I'm sorry?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
have a motion and a second. Open now for discussion.
A question.
Go ahead.
Is the segment for site selection discussion making motions, or are we to discuss how
Yes.
and process
It is,
different locations?
but you do have the opportunity as a committee member to make a motion. You do.
So at what point are we gonna talk about, the reasons behind the different locations, the site locations? Why
As soon as we have our motion makers stop making motions and enter into an opportunity for discussion. I can't prohibit them from making a motion right now,
Right.
but that's where we are. So if they are voted down, then we will continue discussion. If it is approved and we make our 3 selections, that would fulfill our responsibilities that we have here.
Option number 3.
No, sir, hang on one second.
Under discussion,
Under discussion.
that was part of the reason for my earlier inquiry. I believe that property is owned by the Port Authority.
Okay.
That park is Port Authority property, if I'm not
It's
mistaken.
not on park property, it's on Putnam County property.
But it's Port Authority, and I know that because, or I believe I know that because we've entered into some agreement with the Sheriff's Office to help maintain that sign, and that was all approved by the Port Authority. You know, the Port Authority, people like to think of the port, but as a matter of fact, people don't always realize that the jail and the Sheriff's Office is owned by the Port Authority. So they own considerable properties that may be,
Motion still stands.
Okay. And again, you heard Mr. Suggs is the process, that if we were to choose that location as a committee, that it would have to go in front of the board as the Port Authority to make that decision.
Right, it's a deserving position.
Okay. So we're still in discussion. Yes, ma'am?
It's my understanding that the Rotary Club is planning a Veterans Memorial behind that wall. And I don't belong to the Rotary Club, so I'm not sure where that stands exactly, but that needs to be taken into consideration, that it not interfere with.
Yeah, can you just slide that to you, ma'am, please? You can pick it up. It's okay. No, here. It's not plugged in.
No.
No, get it really close to you. There you go.
Okay. It's my understanding that the Rotary Club is planning on doing a Veterans Park, Memorial Park behind that wall. I've seen conceptual drawings of it. It's very nice. The back wall would have all the seals from the different military groups. It's brick paved around with a flagpole in the middle. I suppose if they're in agreement to work with that the statue could be put there. The statue's 17 and a half feet tall, so it's going to be seen no matter where. I think that's a good location, but I think we need to be careful not to interfere with the
Okay.
Rotary Club.
So if I may, so if this passes, we will certainly present to the board the idea of, as a recommendation of keeping it there with the concern about Rotary. It'll be left up to the board to determine whether they would like to negotiate with Rotary. They own the property, how they want to use that property there, or should I say the Port Authority, if that's truly the Port Authority property, which we
I
believe it
just
is.
know that's already in the works.
That's correct. Understand. Yes, ma'am.
So I am a member of the Rotary, and you're correct. There is some discussion about that from several of the Rotary clubs in Putnam County. What I would like to see is us have several options and not just, throw out this one and decide, then throw out another and decide. I think that we need to look at all of our options and have more discussion before I'm comfortable in agreeing to our second and third choices. That's my discussion.
If I'm not mistaken, when we leave from here today, we'll have 3 qualified places to move it.
If that's what we decide upon.
Right, that may not be the
We
case.
don't know whether we'll have other meetings or not yet. So
I might question my peer here. Is the property owned, do you know, by Putnam County?
I do not know that.
I think at this point it's irrelevant to move it to the county commissioners for that decision.
Well, we're going to be taking a vote here in a second, so any
Right.
other discussion about that? Okay, no other discussion. I'm sorry?
It's my understanding that we did not have to have all 3 locations or however many ideas we have today. We can have a second meeting.
We can have as many meetings as this committee needs
Right.
to find that location. However, as motions are made, as selections are made, I certainly understand that we need to have discussion. So maybe that's a motion that someone will make immediately thereafter to entertain more discussion before we enter into additional votes.
Well,
However,
each one of us may have an idea of where to put it, so are you wanting 11 motions of where to put
well,
it?
I would hope that we would have gotten a discussion, but I do want to entertain this motion. And after that, if someone wants to, as you see where this potentially may be going, to make a motion that we will ensure that there will be discussion on viable options before a vote is taken.
Thank
So,
you.
But again, I have to entertain the motion on the floor here.
Right.
So
I understand.
no other question about that? I see none. So again, this is moving and it can't, let me just state this. If we vote no now, you may vote yes later. Again, so there's opportunities there. Yes, sir.
Did we decide, does the Port Authority own the piece of property he's talking about, or does the Board of County Commissioners own it?
Okay, that's we can determine. We can ask and
know
find, but
that?
it's, go ahead, Mr. Administrator.
I believe it's owned by the Port Authority, because we just did Project Play out there. But like we were saying earlier, if this committee comes out with the recommendations and one of those pieces of property that's owned by the Board of County Commissioners under the authority of the Port Authority, those county commissioners will convene a Port Authority meeting to have a discussion on whether or not to accept that motion as one of the viable options.
Okay.
Okay? So, and I think what Mr. Troiano is trying to say here this morning is, and I don't want to interject no more than I need to, but it sounds like we've got some questions and concerns from both sides of the dais here this morning, is that I think part of the desire of this committee and the desire of our commissioners was to have open dialogue amongst the board members, about particular locations or maybe some options that you folks would like to have conversation on. And out of that conversation, you may narrow it down to where you might want to have a motion at that point in time to go ahead and make that an official declaration at that point in time that would move in front of the county commissioners. But I do think it's the will of this committee, and if you want to do that this morning, and so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Suggs. Okay.
Further discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
So, as part of further discussion, I would say, personally, I would like to, I'm going to vote down on this because not that it's a bad option, but simply because I want to see more options. So that's where I'm at
Very good.
for me.
Further discussion as well. I agree. I stand with my first position that I believe that the courthouse should remain an option. However, I think to settle in on option 2 and 3 is far premature at this point, and we need to have some open discussion because there may be options that I haven't even heard yet that may be absolutely brilliant or that I haven't even thought of. So that's my thoughts at this point.
Discussion is still open. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and if we get today to 3 options or more than that, I guess today, well, let me ask this. Since we have 1 or 2 people just making motions for different options, are there going to be more options that we can add to it and then we vote on 3 to?
Well, so far, if I may, we have one that we've all agreed upon. And I believe the discussion is we have to vote on this now. And then after that, if someone will make the motion to direct us, that we'll have open dialogue on locations that each member can present. And then at the end of that discussion, when we're ready to take a vote to fill slots 2 and 3, we do so.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other need to discuss? Okay.
Motion on the floor.
Go ahead.
My third option,
No, sir, we've got to vote on this first. So we're going to have to vote on this first. and then we can move forward after this.
I thought you just did, but we had two receding.
We haven't voted yet.
Okay.
So, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
If we can do a raise of hands, please, so I can see. So only one, Mr. Wade. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. So it's 10-1 in opposition, or 1 to 10 in opposition of that. Okay?
I would like to move a motion
Yes, ma'am?
to have dialogue, discussion on different options that some of the other committee members may have.
Okay. I have a motion on the table to enter into open discussions.
Second.
Second.
Second by Joe Wells.
All right.
Open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Opposed.
Okay, 10-1 opposed, okay? I'm sorry, 1 to 10, and 1 to 10. Okay, so now that we're open for discussion for site locations, ladies and gentlemen, what are some of your suggestions? So let me just do this. We know our first location is going to keep it at Courthouse.
That's not one of the three options.
That's one of the three that we voted on already.
Yep, that one's been made.
We can by vote change anything that we want, but this is the first one that we have of our three, is to keep it at the courthouse.
Jim?
Sir?
Yeah, we're just discussing now potential other
Try to keep close to
sites.
your microphone, please, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. One potential site, if we don't leave it at the courthouse, could be, I think it's the Veterans Memorial Park on the east side of the St. Johns River next to where the old bridge was.
Correct?
So, I mean, that's a possibility.
All right, so if you would like, let's discuss the Veterans Park. It is a county-owned park. If you look at your paperwork that I presented to you, as parks that we have that are owned and managed by Putnam County, Veterans Park is one of the parks that we do have.
Number 15, under parks.
That's correct. Number 15,
Yeah.
Veterans Memorial Park. Again, to show you if you're traveling over the bridge, and again, we haven't gotten to Corky Bells yet or to Muscle Whites. On the right-hand side is that loop that takes you back. There's a bunch of palm trees that are back there, and that is county-owned property.
My concern about that location is it's so close to the river that was already destroyed by a hurricane and had to be redone. That puts the statue in jeopardy. I parked and I walked along that walkway there. There are 3 concrete pads for picnic tables. There are 2 picnic tables there. The one at the far end looked like maybe somebody had been staying there. There was a backpack, some deodorant. It didn't look like a real nice place. There was one man fishing. I went and talked with him. He said he fishes there regularly. And I asked him if he would be offended if the Confederate statue was moved there. And he said he would not be offended, but he was more offended that they were talking about moving it.
Okay.
And so I was surprised at his answer, but he was an Army vet and maybe has a different perspective of things.
Okay.
But I would not recommend that location.
Okay.
I cite its lack of visibility to the public there. It's unlike the statues of the commemorating the war veterans that are on the bridge. This would be beside the bridge. They're in a desolate location that would be hard for the public to even know it was there to visit it. And its lack of parking and so forth has to be acknowledged also. But there is one other I'd like to bring to the attention.
Well, let's just finish.
We're discussion, and
On
this
Veterans
is
Park,
discussion.
Let's just keep the Veterans Park since it's there. Let's flesh it out, and we'll finish discussion, and then we can move on to another location. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I spoke with several veterans, both black, white, male, female, that live here in Putnam County, since that was one that the commissioners had already talked about, and I did not get one no. They thought since it was already a Veterans Memorial Park, that they thought that was very fitting for the statue. If it was, since we were discussing, relocating it. And also, there's a lot of traffic that crosses that bridge on a daily basis. And it's a location that's easily found, easily parking, and so they thought that it would be just fine. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that, because I think I talked with about 10 different veterans here in Putnam County, and neither one of them had anything negative to say about it being relocated at that particular site.
There is no security there.
Well, there's no security at the courthouse.
Well,
There is security at the courthouse.
Well,
Where?
but respectfully, there would be, you know,
Right.
the opportunity for law enforcement on their routine patrols to, you know, routinely patrol that area, as they would because it is a county park.
Yes, and that's what they thought about it, that, you know, it's there, anybody can go and see it at any time, because there's no fence around it at the courthouse, there would be no fence around it there, but it's easily accessible.
So on your computers, and I've given you an opportunity, ma'am, I'm sorry if you can't see that with, you may want to look at his, or come around, yes, please, if you don't have the option, and I'm sorry, there's not a monitor. Hey, Jacob, is there a way we can get that laptop to work for her?
No,
Hey,
he
Jacob?
said the monitor's there.
Is there a way we
I
can
thought
have
they had
her
brought her a monitor.
to see what I'm looking at?
I know where it is.
Okay. I'm sorry, you're welcome to walk around and see it from here, or you're welcome to look on, just look.
Me too.
So this is just an overview of Veterans Park. I'm gonna, you can see Veterans Park, I've got my cursor going over it. This is Veterans Park here. I'm gonna try to zoom in just a little bit more. Here we go. That's the, I hope everybody can see that. Okay. So continuing with the discussion.
Another
We all know that hurricanes come and go. It's certainly looking for a disaster to place this thing on that point, if you will, that will be susceptible to high tides, as we see almost yearly, sometimes like we see in Louisiana, 3 hurricanes, one right after another. We'd be looking, unless we elevated that entire island to the destruction of that statue.
Okay.
Again, unlike the military statues that welcome people to plaque on both sides of the bridge, this would be down in the dregs beside the bridge where it can't be seen from passing public.
Okay.
Another-
Yes, ma'am?
Another concern is that often at night, the lights are not on over the bridge, and it's very dark going across the bridge, and so that's going to be down under where it's even darker.
Okay. Any other discussion? Danny?
I kind of agree it's not the best location in the world. I mean, it's appropriate because it's a Veterans Park, but it is not the easiest thing to see.
There's
Actually,
nothing down
Mr.
there
Wade's
that's
suggestion
thing to do with
was
veterans.
probably not a bad suggestion.
All right, let's continue talking about it. Ma'am,
Yeah.
go ahead.
There's nothing down there that has anything to do with veterans. I mean, there's no other monuments or anything. It's just a name,
That is
as
true.
far as I know.
Veterans Park, as we know it, as citizens of Putnam County know it, is where the torpedo is located on the other side of the bridge. That would be another option, if you will. I think property is city-owned, though, if I'm not mistaken. But, so that takes it out of the realm of possibilities.
Well, it doesn't, so the board can have an opportunity, and if it's a selection in the city, obviously then the board would have to work with the city commission on determining whether they would accept it on their property. But again, we're to give the board suggestions now based on how we voted in the confines, you're right. We voted on property only for Putnam County. I'm sorry, I stand corrected.
If you wanted to make it a Veterans Park, I would want the other monuments that are on the courthouse line moved down there, too.
Okay, but again,
That's not our
No, ma'am.
deal, so we're limited to some ideas about what we can suggest.
Well, right
And
now,
just to put the Confederate monument down there and call it a Veterans Park, it's not a Veterans Park, so.
Well, certainly being unpatrolled like it is right now, at this point in time, anything could happen to that statue, as we can affirm by the one that was moved in St. Augustine to a fish camp. People can reach it by boat, and they don't have to reach it by car and throw a rope around it and drag it in the river. That's not what I want to see. You know, the due diligence of this group is to put it in a safe location in Putnam County.
okay. Any other discussion about Veterans Park?
Just two thoughts on Veterans Park. One, I agree, there are no other veterans monuments down there, and we know that to be Veterans Park, but I'm also an optimist at times, and maybe this is the beginning of a beautiful Veterans Park in that location. And then I'll put on that law enforcement hat for a minute. It will be less secure in that location. One of the things that goes, that helps secure it at the courthouse is, while it's not fenced, it is under video surveillance at all times. But I also think there's security measures that could be put into play if we leave this as an option for further study, and maybe even studies of the elevation, exactly how big it is. Might be an opportunity for a field trip to that location and look at it. But maybe just looking at options here, maybe the Confederate Monument at Veterans Park is the beginning of a beautiful Veterans Park that everybody can observe. A well-lighted, well-patrolled, well-secured Veterans Park, just for point of discussion.
Might very well be, Joe, but certainly the elevation is to be considered. We have a Veterans Park, I think, as we all recognize it, is on the other side of the river. To look at 6-foot-high elevations and tides coming from a hurricane, that whole, what I'm seeing is an island there would have to be elevated to make the place of its new residence, if that's where the board chooses to go, safe. And again, I summarize it by saying the statues on the bridge are secured and secured to the bridge and its higher elevation.
It is my understanding too that at some point in time, the county did have a plan or drawing of having improvements down there at Veterans Park for the Waterways Committee. That those plans have already been made, but nobody can find them or whatever. And so.
Well, we can certainly find, you know, if that's the need of this committee to find, you know, other committee work and bring it back, I can certainly, you know, look down that avenue to help with that. I just need direction from the committee.
I would like to see what they had already proposed for that area.
One other thing that might be...
Excuse me 1 second, sir. Just want to verify that would be the Waterways Committee?
Yeah.
And what their intent was for that area?
Yeah, it's my understanding there's already a drawing and suggestions and things like that for that area.
Okay.
One other thing needs to be considered there. I think knowing the history of this new bridge versus that of the old Memorial Bridge, that is remnants and dregs of the Memorial Bridge that you see is piled up there and under, under a little bit of dirt.
And it's just interesting, though, that the county named that the Veterans Memorial Park, because I agree with Joe when he said that it has to be the beginning of something, because why would they even name it Veterans Memorial Park without a veteran being placed there already? So I don't know. I mean, and it's not like my favorite or anything, but to me, there has to have been some thought put into it to even name it Veterans Memorial Park. So where does it begin?
It certainly is.
Hang on 1 second, ma'am. Go ahead, sir.
It's certainly, your point is well taken, but you have to remember that the Memorial Bridge, the former Memorial Bridge, was named as such because of the veterans that adorn both ends of it. I think that's how they slipped into a memorial, or a veterans memorial, if you will, island and remnants of the old bridge that's piled up there.
And I do
I don't-
remember the old bridge, right?
Yeah.
It was the Memorial Bridge.
Memorial Bridge, and the soldiers now that adorn it on both ends certainly hold probably controversy too for being moved in the future. If this is what we're looking at, moving statues, they're going to be moved too. It's just a matter of time. But I don't think it's a suitable location, and I'll hang my hat on that one. Go on to the next.
Well, we still have the opportunity. Anybody else want discussion for, yes, ma'am?
I'm not really in favor of that area, but to add to it, I think originally they were going to try to move the torpedo over there.
I'm sorry?
They were going to try to move
Oh, the torpedo. Yes, ma'am.
torpedo over there as part of the Veterans Park. But there was some glitch about they can't move the torpedo because of the Navy.
Well, it'd be more suitable because it floats than our statue that the courthouse doesn't float.
Okay. Any other discussion about Veterans Park? So let's just keep that as, I see no other, hear no other. We certainly have an option there for us as a committee to think about. So I'll just put on my little note here, we have Veterans Park. Discuss Veterans Park.
And I'd like to make a motion for another location.
Well, if we can, I think we already motioned once that we would enter into more discussion first before we entered into more discussion.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Can I look back at my motion, Brother Chair, where it was voted down, but keep it open as an option, the entrance of Highway 17 and
We can certainly open that up later for a vote. And
right, well, we'll keep it as an option. You seem to be going towards the option list now, and I guess,
It's not, we didn't vote on it.
Right.
It's passed. We did not vote on it, so it's
That's what I'm
passed.
asking
If
now.
we were to vote later on it as a committee and you vote to select that.
Right.
Then that will be.
I'd
on
like
there.
it put on your list, though.
Okay.
And I'd like to open a discussion on the John Theobold complex.
I'm sorry.
The John Theobold complex, which is right there, I call it the Y.
Yes, ma'am.
That's 17 and 19. Am I correct?
Let me go there.
Oh,
That's still Triangle.
we talked about already.
Oh, the triangle, okay, okay.
That's the same.
I
So
think
what
you're,
is
you're
the-
right. The official name is John Theobold Park, but I think everybody refers to it as Triangle.
Park.
Okay.
I think another option, Brother
Okay,
Chair.
okay.
Hang on one second, sir. Let me just zoom on this. So now that I have this, so
Yeah,
this is
so I
the
can
sign
see
right
where
here
I'm
as all can see. And this is the location that we were
And that's where
considering.
Project
And
Play is, am I
It is, and
correct?
so this is
Okay.
John Theobold Sports Complex. Some people do call it Triangle Park, but
Yes.
that's what we're discussing. So
Right.
Okay, I'm good.
I want Ms. Cynthia to clarify if it would be the same location as.
microphone, ma'am, please. Your microphone.
Just a point of clarification, if it was the same location as Mr. Wade was speaking of, or were you going to suggest a different location at the same location?
No, that is the same location.
Oh, I mean, different place. I
Right, so
believe
it-
he was speaking of
Oh,
by the
behind the
wall.
sign.
And I wanted to know if you were going to suggest a different place at John Theobold Park, other than the wall.
I think we left it as not to interfere with the Rotary Club.
Well, that's not, no, we can still, our suggestion, again, would have gone in front of the board. The board would then negotiate with Rotary concerning that location, but we voted that location down, that specific one. You still have other locations there.
Right,
If this-
we still have
and the
those
sign
locations. If we put 4 or 5 options, valuable options up on your board, as you're doing right now, this group could select from those.
Correct.
The 3 that, and I think that's where you're going, the 3 that you want to present to the board. Triangle Park being a
Right, but the
still
location
option.
on Triangle Park is
Right,
what I was
right, well,
discussing.
we'll let the people at the board decide where that would be, maybe. But
Well, no,
But we can
because we
also
already
discuss it.
discussed behind the sign, but I was thinking of it being more open,
I would have
not
no,
necessarily
I would have no problem
behind
with
the sign.
Here's a view here of John Theobold Sports Complex.
right.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Because our monitor doesn't work.
Uh-oh,
See
okay.
the island up there, not marked number,
But her monitor is not working.
number 18 or 19, that little island, if you will. Jim, screen down a little bit, the other way. other way. Right there, where the intersection of 19 comes, that island, that's where the welcome to Putnam County is.
No, the sign is right here.
Right, I mean, I'm talking
Okay, I
just
got you.
opposite of that sign.
I got you, I got you, okay, yeah, I'm
And you were
mistaken.
thinking about right behind it.
Right, yeah, any place right in there. And certainly it's well protected and well preserved by the Putnam County Sheriff's Department as they travel back and forth there every day, probably 15, 20, 30 times a day.
And my concern was not behind the sign, but actually just opposite of that sign.
So if you look at this, so where my cursor is, am I going in the right direction of what you're requesting? Where I'm going
No,
the other?
sir.
Here?
Yes, on that side.
So
Correct.
somewhere like in this area here?
Yes, because it's an open area and
Okay.
it's visible as soon as you come up that road and not behind the sign.
But my presentation shows that it would be elevated and above the sign.
Right, so we have just two options
Yeah,
there.
above the
Or they
sign.
have two options.
You know, like right now at the courthouse, it's elevated and it's not like sitting flat on the ground.
It's going to be closer to State Road 19.
Correct.
Okay, all right, that's one of the options. I have it.
Well, that area there also has a possibility of creating a learning atmosphere area. I mean, you've got room to move around and
Just
possibly
keep in
put
mind that there is
stuff.
drainage along that road, it is wet there. And we'd also have to look at the Department of Transportation from any setback requirements that they may have.
The dark green area would probably be noted as the drainage area.
Well, wasn't that where we said the Port Authority owned that?
Correct, but that's still a state road there, so there'll still be a state right-of-way that
Yes.
is along that side of the road. And then we'd have to, just abide by any setback requirements that we would have. So there's certainly an option if you look at somewhere over here. I went out there not long ago and it was very wet through there, but I think this is higher ground here.
Yes.
And so that is an option. So we do have as an option next to the sign on State Road 19.
The wall was built, I think, by donations and even labor from Georgia Pacific back years ago, so it was looked at as far as the elevation being proper and not being flooded. And I still think that any place on that particular piece of property would be very welcoming to people coming into the community. The other, are we finished with this discussion?
I don't think so. I think we're still on, let's call it John Theobold Park, the park.
Right.
Any other discussion on the park? So we have two options, one behind the sign, one closer to State Road 19.
When we were there, it was very wet walking over. I couldn't take the car, so I parked and walked to the sign, and it was very wet until you got up to it. So I don't know with the weight of the statue and the soft ground.
Well, again.
That would all be engineered.
That's
Right,
correct.
they're gonna hire an engineer, so.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to say that what y'all have just been discussing are both better ideas than my idea about Veterans Park by the bridge, so.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
But,
Jim, if I could just,
Jim, I need to step out and leave.
Yes, sir.
If that's okay, can be excused.
Absolutely. If you need to leave,
me for something, call me. If you need me to come back and,
well, we'll let you know if we have another meeting and
yeah, I'll be there.
Can he hear my other option before he leaves?
no, sir, we're still,
Well, kill it. There's no more further discussion, I don't think.
well, we're still discussing
That's just on one.
Triangle Park.
Right, well, I think
Jim,
that
if I
that's,
could just make one request. I know everybody's passionate and in a hurry to get somewhere, but I want to make sure that at least personally, I hear everybody's ideas, and I think we've got some mini discussions going on down the dais, so if we could I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. I know you
That's
ladies
right.
down on the end were having some discussion that I didn't get to hear.
I'd like to just stay focused on that. If we need to communicate as a group, again, we're here at this discussion now. He's leaving. He's not going to be
Right.
able to vote now, so.
certainly I understand, but I'd like to put out there another preferable place for the third positioning of that statue, should it come about. I think the discussion on Triangle Park is about ended.
Well, we're still not ended. At least I still see, and let me just ask, is there more discussion about Triangle Park?
I would just ask if I think you ladies were having some discussion down there. I'm not sure that I heard it all.
The reason that we were talking is because this monitor doesn't work, so we have to come over.
I understand.
and see
I just
the
don't want to
thing.
miss anything. I want to take everything into account.
We were talking about the location and stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
So don't think we're having our own little meeting.
No, I don't want to miss your opinion. I want to hear what you have to say, so, okay.
So, any other discussion? So we have 2 locations at Triangle Park, John Theobold Park. Do we want to add anything else
Yes.
about John Theobold Park?
No.
That's what I'm just trying to figure. Committee members, is anything else about John Theobold Park? Our 2 locations, one behind the sign, one closer to State Road 19.
I do have a question. Has nothing to do with John Theobald Park. But once we come up with suitable locations that we think, can we actually go at like a site selection committee and go and look at the sites?
That's totally left up to this committee. That's your option, absolutely. Certainly will not limit your avenues to choose or decide on the best locations.
And my comments based on that park is also because it draws a lot of people because of the, what do we call it, the playground area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But your
Project Play.
But your
Okay,
preference, well, a while ago, if I'm not mistaken, was also for Veterans Park. What would you-
Yes,
what
I
would
have
your-
more than one.
What would your priority be?
Well,
What would-
let's not
We're
get
not
into
discussing
priorities, sir.
priorities right now.
We're still discussing
Let's try to
Triangle
flesh
Park.
out
No,
John
but what I'm
Theobald. I got to get it right. It's John Theobald Park. So,
Correct.
any other discussion on this end?
Ms.
the
Cynthia, I
guys?
think you were beginning to say something about John
Yes,
Theobald.
I was just thinking because of the frequency of traffic in and out of the Triangle, John Theobald Park, I think that it will get a whole lot more recognition.
So that's your preference?
That's my statement.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything down here, a further discussion? Ladies?
No, but can I ask one thing of the
Absolutely.
committee? Can one person talk at a time, please? And
Yes.
us not talk over each other, please?
This isn't a presidential debate, ma'am.
We'll have decorum, though, in here.
I understand.
We certainly will. So we'll respect others. Nothing, Stella, nothing down here? Ladies, anything over here? Again, dealing with John Theobald Park? Here back in the center?
All right, time to go again?
Just give me a second,
You
sir.
were
Just want to make
waving
sure
that wand.
that Joe and they all
Yes,
have,
sir.
okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to a new location.
All right.
I have-
It's my turn now. The new location, my number 3 location would be located probably 150 yards to your back at the sign that welcomes people to the center here that we're all sitting at. It certainly would be patrolled, it would be visible, and I think it would be a desirable number 3 choice on my 3 choices that I prefer myself. Number 1,
And where on the government complex again?
the sign that leads people in here.
Behind it?
I'm leaving that to the committee or to the commissioners to decide where they would place it, or this group of people could take a walk out there today, tomorrow, next week, and put an X on the ground.
Okay, so let's see here. It's going to be easier if I can go out and see where I'm going. Here it is.
Jim,
Sir?
I'm gonna step out.
Okay,
See you, Mr. Burns.
Okay, see y'all.
That's what I wanted Mr. Burns to hear
got
before
it.
he left.
Mr. Burns, got it. Thank you, sir. We'll let you know. Today or? Okay, very good. Thank you for being here today, sir. So here is the entrance to the government complex. It's my understanding, and again, I'm sorry for those that can't see it, but this property here that I'm putting my cursor over is not owned by the board. I believe it's privately owned. I'm not 100% certain.
Well, that's not the encirclement, I think, that holds the
This is
sign.
the sign
right-
here, so
right
you're
there.
talking about somewhere
Right
out here.
there, yeah, in that
So
area.
to the left,
So right around here, so
Yes.
right around the sign itself,
Yes.
okay? So discussion about it being here out front, you drove, probably many of you drove through there to see, that sign is certainly a beacon of what we have to offer here. So your thoughts? Yes, please.
How permanent is this government complex going to be, the government complex?
I don't think
I
anybody
think
really
that's
can answer that
something
question.
we have to take into consideration.
Right now, we're
The
sitting in
board
the
has made a
Howell Theater.
long-term commitment to be here. Obviously, the supervisor of elections is here. So unless the board looks in the future to come up with money to build something new, I can't answer that question. But I would feel safe to say that
To
it would
consider.
probably be here for a very long time. Yes, ma'am.
So does the Board of County Commissioners own the whole complex? I know there's a couple private, and there's a restaurant and
That's
other
correct.
things here.
I don't know the answer to that. So that's something that we're going to have to, and I can certainly put in my list of things to ask, is for this particular piece of property, does the board own that portion out there? I can ask.
And the second question, I would say, if they have a lease with a private entity, like the restaurant that's, I think, in the same complex, is there something in their lease that would prevent, or you have to get approval from them, or, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that, but I would at least like it to be checked on.
We had the man with permitting here a while ago, so he could probably answer that.
Well,
I'd like
a
to-
lease is a legal binding document, and so I think somebody would need to review that if there's a lessee in this building.
Yeah, it is my understanding that the county owns this entire building with room to grow. There is still unused portions of it that will require some modification
Right.
and roofing and HVAC additions, but
Which would include the parking lot, Joe.
I understand, yeah, I believe so. And I do, because we also, the sheriff's office maintains a small portion of this building for video visitation, for inmate visitation. And it's my understanding that the private entities like the restaurant lease from the county.
Okay.
That's correct. That's my understanding, is that there is a
I just
lease in
wanted to
place
make
for
sure.
that. But we're also in the city limits too, so there's, I don't know those answers, so I need to determine exactly what property the county does own and manage.
Well, certainly.
So I'll get that answered for you.
Right,
That's not
right.
an issue.
It's just like the, where the statue is now, it's in the city limits, but retained by the county.
All right, so we have government complex near the sign. Let's discuss it. Any other thoughts? So I do have to identify, does the board own the property? And is there a lease, does the lease that's in place prohibit the statute from being placed on the property, whether there's any issues associated with that?
Just to make sure.
Absolutely, I think that's a great comment.
I have a suggestion for a place.
Here?
No,
So
a
are we,
new,
fi-
a new top, new.
are we finished with government complex?
I'd like just to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Maybe for board members, and like I stated earlier, I just want all points of view and want to be able to understand this from everybody's perspective. And I know that part of the contention of the courthouse has been the fact that it is the halls of justice for Putnam County. But just as a point of reminder, our supervisor of elections is here. Thoughts on that from anybody on the board that would identify concerns or feelings, the fact that while the courthouse is our halls of justice, this location symbolizes fair election and election processes?
I think it would complement it, Joe.
What's that?
I think it would complement.
Okay. I'm just curious if anybody else had any thoughts on that.
I agree, Joe. I feel that the statute shouldn't be forced upon anyone to look at, I think that, which is another option, but a designated location for individuals who want to see it, go specifically to see that. But if they go to a public location, they shouldn't be forced, if they don't want to see the statute, such as at the courthouse or at the government complex.
Ma'am, can you speak with your microphone, please?
That's a sentiment that's been widely shared, that it should not be in any place where the public is compelled for civic or social reasons to go to. If it's in a separate park, you go there by option, not by compulsion.
Okay. Okay, so again, back here at the government complex, any other discussion on it other than the potential or the suggestion of being somewhere near the sign? Okay?
I
Seeing-
moved a motion.
No, sir?
No,
No, sir?
You
Not
just
yet?
closed it.
no, we're just,
I did we're still in a matter of discussion yet, but I would like to entertain.
I was just
a
going
need-
to ask if I could take a look at the Rotary Park. Where is, I can't physically,
But Rotary Park's in the city limits, isn't it?
is
I
it?
think I
Well,
just
that's
wanna
one on
clarify-
here that says parks, and so I thought that was one of our suggestions.
So what is known as Rotary Park is near what is now Edge High School, which used to be the school board headquarters. There's a ball field there. and
Oh,
that's known as
okay.
Rotary Park.
Okay, well, you don't have to
And that's
show
on
me.
Hudson, Joe? Or
It would
Mosley?
be on Krill as you make the sharp, or North Ninth Street as you make the sharp left curve off of Krill, as you're approaching St. John's
It
Avenue.
says
I got you.
Laurel Street, it
Yeah, it's
says
on the corner of
800
Krill.
Laurel Street. And I was just
Oh,
wondering.
okay. You're talking about, oh, that's right, that's right here. Is this where you're talking about?
Yes, it shows up on the
If
county.
you get it just a little bit bigger for me, I might be able to help you identify. I
Yes,
know that because our Rotary Club sponsors that park and puts the scoreboards and stuff there. So it's on that ball field.
So it's actually the ball field.
Here's the American Legion that's across here's the bridge that I'm sorry, the bridge is
Right,
behind
so
us here.
continue to go closer to town. All right.
Oh, there it
so-
is, Rotary Park.
Right, that's
Right there.
Rotary Park, right there next to
The edge.
the Edge High.
Right.
Yeah,
I
Putnam
got you.
Edge High School is there, and then the ball field, which is right beside it. I call it right between the park, it's on the opposite side of the parking lot. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. How about another location? Yes, please?
I had are you ready for a new location?
I think we are, yes.
Okay. At the courthouse, buildings to the left of it.
Annex.
The annex.
The annex, where the mural is for the veterans, for the wars. There's a parking lot there, and the county owns that parking lot. So I was thinking maybe put it there, but have the other monuments moved there too, and make that into a little park where people could go out and,
Well, can you
Certain
see on your map, so can you help me where you're talking about on this that I just have in front of you? Here's the here's the current statute here. Here's Reed, or Highway 100, or
yeah, to the left, yeah.
here in this parking lot?
To the building at the corner of the old,
Here?
it's the old, commissioners.
So on the
meeting
corner of
parking lot.
6th and Reed?
6 and St. John.
I think it's
I'm
St.
sorry,
John's.
She's back this way, I'm sorry.
It's just come down.
You're here.
Right there, right there, right there. On the back of that building is the mural that has all the wars on it,
Yes.
Okay,
but it does not have the Confederate War on it. But they have recently finished that mural. So the county owns that parking lot, so if we put it at one end, like say the north end, and then the other monuments that are on the courthouse lawn could be moved there too, and make that into a little park.
okay, so then the suggestion then for the board would be to remove that county parking and create that into a park,
Correct.
okay?
I don't think that's the resolve of this committee, is to determine building of parks, just
No,
moving
but
the
we can pick a
statue.
location.
And to move
Yeah,
the
that-
statue
that
only
was
to
just the
200 or 300
discussion.
yards as the crow flies is not, I think, in the best interest of.
Okay, point well taken. So obviously, we can only make a recommendation, so your recommendation would be putting it currently in a parking lot.
Yeah, well, not have it as a parking lot anymore, but, put it there.
Yeah, I do, and again, your thoughts on this. I think we have to choose viable current locations for the board that it can be moved to. Again, you're looking at, by doing that, there's a lot of work and process. You still have setbacks that are going to be required to be ensured that, again, I can't say that they can develop that into a park. That's an idea out of our ability. So what are your thoughts?
It is in the city.
But it's county-owned property. It is.
And it's also a part of the courthouse.
It's on the,
When you look at that
technically, it's
whole-
on the
I look
courthouse
at the whole
property.
complex.
Right, but
there.
we've already determined that the
Right.
mayor of Putnam County, or Palatka, feels like
And I
having
have
it
a
any
point of
place,
order. I have a
any
point of
place
order.
close to the
Sir,
county.
let's just say this. We're not concerned about Mayor Hill.
We are concerned, that's why we're here.
No, sir.
No, we're not.
That's not.
And
We're
I
not.
have a
I'll correct
point
you.
of
We're not.
order.
We're here to identify locations.
I understand that.
And let's just keep the conversation civil.
And the
on point.
conversation is civil, Mr. Chair, and it's not to be moving it 100 yards for the tune of a $400,000 or
that's
so
your-
fee.
that's your opinion, sir.
Well, I'm bringing it to the board's option too. It's a matter of discussion that it was brought to where we are right now simply by the mayor's complaint to the county commissioners. I rest my case.
Okay. Ma'am, let's continue.
Right, my point of order is we're not here to discuss and try to degrade any individual.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. All right, so I haven't put it on our list. Is it something that you would like? We certainly can.
Yes, I would like it on the list.
I think we need to vote on it being on the list, like we did the others.
Sir, these are just recommendations. That's all they are.
Well, we've voted on the other recommendations also.
No, sir, we haven't.
We've not voted on any of those below that line.
We didn't vote on Veterans Park?
No.
No, we were just discussing.
Right.
We're operating under a current motion, which we all agreed to, I think 10-1, to brainstorm other
Right,
ideas.
just a brainstorm.
Okay. So I'm going to put courthouse annex.
Can you number those? I'm sorry? Can you number those? Like number 1 is up, to keep it at the courthouse.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on the courthouse annex? Seeing none?
I move to a motion to vote on the top 3 that are on the list. You opened it for the board. We can vote on 3 of the 4 or 5 that you have on there
We're
to
still in-
present to the board.
We still haven't finished the discussion that we have.
You just closed the discussion.
No, sir, I didn't. I'm looking for a next topic, the next location. Again, we're still trying to flush out as many locations as possible, and then you'll have the opportunity to go back and vote on any one that you want. We
My
can vote on all.
motion's still on the floor. You opened it up.
I did not open it up. We're still under discussion for this. So if you wouldn't mind, please, let us continue this route of identifying locations. I think we're doing a good job.
Certainly doing a good job. It's just time to resolve the matter to the 3 that we put, which are
Okay. Are you
5
making a
good,
motion, sir?
5 good points. Yes, I made a motion that we pick the top 3 that you've got on there and
So
settle
there's a
them.
motion. Is there a second? Hearing none, motion fails as a lack of a second. Okay? So, next location. Or do we need a break? Okay?
Yeah, we need a break.
I'm sorry, would you like a break?
Yes,
How about we
please.
take a 10-minute break? Very good. Take a 10-minute recess. How about a new location?
We were talking about Melrose, that Heritage Park. Do you have that on the maps that you have?
Give me 1 second. Melrose Heritage Park, I got it. Help if I took this off. 204 Pearl Street.
Jim,
Yes, ma'am?
not everyone has that page in their packet.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, do you have it? All right, well, I'll give everybody the county parks. You don't have the county parks?
No, is it attached to one of the other
It's
packets?
in that packet itself.
No, it's supposed to be in this packet.
Okay, this is only 3 pages.
Mine wasn't, but he made a copy for me.
Okay, Jacob will make a copy for us real quick.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
That's why
I
we
guess
didn't know
when
about part 15.
when I copied it, maybe it just,
He sent that email a week or two ago, that's how I got it.
okay, so here is 204 Pearl Street. Let me zoom in for you. So here is State Road 26. Here is the Melrose Heritage Park. Kind of give you a little perspective of where we are. Here's State Road 21. Here's Chiapani. Here is the Senior Center. And of course, the location that we're looking at. Here's the fire station. So I'll zoom in a little bit. And there it is.
Big red dot is.
Yes, where the big red dot is.
Do they have a mayor there? I mean, would they have a mayor that would
They do not have an elected official in the town of Melrose. They do not. They do not.
No, there's no governing body.
Is this open for discussion? Apparently it is.
Yeah, absolutely. She just made the recommendation, or at least the suggestion to look at this.
Yeah, I think it's a terrible location, certainly, because it's borderline of 4 different counties. You take a basketball and hit 4 counties other than Putnam. It's in a place that's out of the way. I solicit that the statute, if considered to be moved, then it needs to stay relevant to the centralized government and nucleus of Putnam County Courthouse, and not at somebody's fish camp like other counties have.
Okay, thank you for your opinion, sir. Thank you. So this is what we have. It's here. I will bring, or as soon as Jacob comes back with the copies, we can provide you other locations. So this is, I'm not putting it on my list unless the committee tells me to. But
Well, right, during our break, and I even brought up the fact that we're just looking at just Palatka, or are we looking at the county?
remember, we talked about the properties that the
Right.
county owns.
Right,
Or, you
and
know,
so, and oftentimes, in our discussion, we said oftentimes I said oftentimes we do just think of just Palatka, when the other north and west
Correct.
oftentimes are left out. They still have to pay county taxes.
Sure. Anything in the unincorporated area
Right.
is paying taxes. Obviously, everybody pays taxes, but
Correct.
you know, we truly are.
But I just felt like we needed to at least
Sure.
discuss, because there may be people who have a whole lot, I mean, I don't live in West Putnam nor South Putnam, but I know that we oftentimes will miss those areas just because we focus so much directly to the Palatka area. And I understand what David said in reference to, being in close proximity to the courthouse or whatever.
But certainly as a point of discussion, again, the voice of the people could be heard if it was on the ballot.
Again, if you could please stay within
I'm within the guidelines.
within our box, and that's not one of our recommendations.
Well, it's not recommendations, but it's certainly food for thought.
It's not, if I may, respectfully. We have a charge to identify locations, not to rehash the board's decisions, just respectfully. Yes, ma'am.
I go to the dentist in Melrose, and I just find that little community beautiful. It's got a lot of old homes that have been restored. I'm not familiar with this park, but it does say there's a Veterans Memorial in it.
I think it's going to be
And a
it's
green
either gonna be
space area.
here.
I would like to go look at it, and because it's certainly in keeping with the spirit and would look appropriate in Melrose.
I must remind everybody that is borderline Alachua County, Clay County, what other county, Joe?
Bradford.
Bradford and Putnam.
But it would be it would still be located in the Putnam County part of that city.
That is
But
a
it
county
would-
park, that's
But
correct.
certainly would it be a visible portion of the county and the community that would go there to visit that? I don't believe so,
Okay.
my opinion.
Very good.
I would say staying within the realms of what Ms. Reese indicated, that it's the basis of the meaning. It's, it has other veterans there. Well, it's a Veterans Memorial. I don't know what's there really, but also it's not a place where anyone would be, I guess, compelled to look at it.
But if we were to read what's on the statue there, it's for the people of Putnam County and the sacrifice that those people made, that that's where it was dedicated, for the people of Putnam County, not Alachua, Clay.
But they're
and-
Putnam
Still
County
talking
citizens
Putnam.
in Melrose.
I understand we can throw a basketball and hit the other counties.
Putnam County citizens resides in Melrose.
That's correct. So Melrose Heritage Park, any other discussion about it?
I would like,
I'm sorry?
did someone say that they wanted to go look at it?
Can you put it closer to,
Did someone say they wanted to go look at this site?
yeah, and I think that's an option that we have as a group to visit these sites, if that's what the collective opinion is, or the majority opinion here of this committee. That's certainly an option for us, absolutely.
I think in that people are bringing these sites into the discussion, if they want to look at them, maybe that's something we ought to really think seriously about in order to have meaningful discussion
Sure.
and decision-making.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I agree, but I do think that that's something, we're all donating our time here voluntarily, and I think that's something that we should do on our own accord, not, if you want to go see the park, go see the park, and then make your own decision. I don't know that we need to waste everybody's time and try to coordinate 11 people on a specific date and a specific time to go. I think that if we're going to reconvene in another meeting, then go to all the things that are on the items if we don't make a decision today, and then if you don't know where they're at, go see them, and then when you come back, you're just more knowledgeable.
Very good.
I agree.
Point well made.
Okay.
Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
A new suggestion.
So, is this we're done with Melrose Heritage
Stella
Park?
has a question.
No.
Stella?
I will say, I do know the Melrose Park. I am familiar with that area. And if you want to put it in a community and want that community to take care of it, Melrose community is a community that maintains and take care of pretty much everything in that community. They are the security.
Where is your library in Melrose?
It's 312 Wynwood Avenue.
Okay.
If you take 20 and hit 21, when you get in Melrose, just go through the light, the second paved road to your left.
I got you.
It's right behind the post
Okay.
office.
So, any other discussion on this? Thank you, Stella, for your comments. Next location, ma'am.
The Tanglewald Nature Park, I'm not really suggesting it, but I have been told that the county was fixing that up. I don't know what it looks like or anything like that, but it is something that the county is working on, improvements.
All right, let me bring it up. Here it is. It's along the river, along West River Road.
Oh, that's way out.
And let me just back out a little bit so we can get more of a point of reference. So, yeah, so we're Highway 17 north to West River Road, east to this location. It is along the St. Johns River. Looks like it to be in a wooded area. Does look like there's some improvement. I think we may even have, don't we have like a little kayak launch there or something too?
Yeah, there's
Seems like there is a soft
picnic
launch.
tables, a kayak launch.
Okay, okay.
It
very
says soft launch
good. So no adding to the list. Okay.
on a walking trail.
What else do you all have in mind?
Well, if the county would buy the Johnson House land, we could put it there.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
It would not be appropriate at the Bronson House. That was an abolitionist, and if they're connecting the dots with slavery, they don't connect.
Okay. Plus, it's not under county control at this point, right? Okay, very good. Yes, ma'am.
So I know you've given us a list of the boat ramps and the parks, and some community centers, but, there are other properties that the county owns
The
that are
county-
just not in this, maintenance program? Is that what the right?
Yes, so I will add to that. I believe in the email I initially sent was, these are the properties that we have as far as park-type locations.
Right.
There's also the locations for the constitutional officers, which they're county properties, but I didn't include them in that list. And speaking of constitutionals, obviously the sheriff's office, tax, they have their own locations, the supervisor of elections, although happens to be here on our property. But Putnam County does own undeveloped properties in the county, or should I say throughout the county. That was a very extensive list. Some of those parcels are very small.
Correct.
Through different
Tax deeds
processes,
or whatever,
tax
yes,
liens,
yes.
so through that process. And some are larger, but I would say that list is open for review, but much of that would probably be in undeveloped rural portions of the county.
Yeah, I see your point.
However, there's certainly, I can pull up on the property appraiser site here and just type in Putnam County ownership, and there's a lot.
Right.
There really is. It's like directly across the street from John Theobold Park is obviously the bus depot, but to the left, if you're looking at the bus depot, that's county property through there. There's county property in the back, which then becomes Port Authority property of where the sheriff and others are back there. So there's a lot of properties that are around that the county owns, but it's undeveloped property for the most part.
And the school board owns their own property, they're a separate entity?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
I think that we could sit here and beat this thing to death and come up with hundreds of locations. I think we've got 5 on your board right now. I think those 5 have been thought about by this group before they came in here. They knew where they wanted to put the statue if, and that if is a big word, is considered to be moved. And certainly with the obligations that now that the county commissioners have levied on, if the moving costs are occurred, then your number 1 on the list becomes moot, because if this board puts it on the list to stay, then the county commissioners, if they receive the money to have it moved, it's a catch-22. It's moot.
You're correct. If this committee voted to keep the statute where it is, and the board agreed and took no additional decision, even if monies were raised, the board's made a decision to keep it there. That's the board's decision. You're right.
But to keep this thing moving here is not to beat to death locations that are located from the central seat of Putnam County, which is Palatka. I think we need to think to keep that statue where it's at or close by.
Okay.
And I think that we've got 5 up there that we need to narrow to 3, vote on those 3, and give the thing to the county commissioners today. We don't need to beat this thing to death and go visit every place in Putnam County.
Your opinion's well noted, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So I agree with David on some things. However, I didn't have that list of 5 before I walked in this room today. I didn't have that list of 2 because I came in with an open mind, and I'd heard the Veterans Park discussed, And other than that, I was very happy to see that we've come up with a list of 5. I do agree that we do need to narrow it down, but you know, it's 12:08 and I've spent 4 hours of my time with you guys. Love you. I see 9, 10, 11, 12, 3 hours. But I'm not, you know, I'm not ready to make a decision today. That's where I'm at.
Well, the decision wouldn't be made today, other than a decision on the point of 3. And 1 could be your favorite, 2 could be your favorite, or all 3.
And my position is I'm not ready to make that at
Very
this
good.
meeting today.
Also have one member out.
Doesn't represent a quorum.
So let's look at additional locations. We have 5. So are there any other locations that you can think of?
Yes, I would like to, I guess, explore,
Sorry?
you had mentioned, yeah, I don't know where you heard. An empty lot, maybe, you know, work on a new beginning for sort of a park. You had mentioned that there are several empty lots. You know, I would like to discuss that option.
Okay, please, it's on the table. Please, go ahead.
Well, I don't know any right now, but I did make a note to
But you
look
see,
on the
empty
county,
lot-
excuse me. I did make a note to look on the county appraiser's website for county-owned property to be more knowledgeable of those locations, but, you know, the idea came to me when you mentioned several open lots. You know, I think that, you know, it can be a start of something new. And it's also a designated area for anyone who wants to go there to learn about it and do whatever they feel is necessary.
This group needs to take into consideration the visibility for not only people looking at it, but the visibility for its own protection. If you move it out like the West River Road site, or I don't know anything about the Melrose site, but if you move it to where people can't enjoy it and it's out of visibility, it's going to be destroyed, it's going to be tore down, it's going to be the subject of graffiti. We don't need that. The locations that we talked about behind your back by 200 yards, where it's at right now, and I'm going to say Triangle Park, again, those locations are highly visible and well protected by this Sheriff's Department and local police.
Just as one of the officers here indicated, most of the properties in Putnam County is, you know, I don't know what you call it, ride by.
Patrolled?
Patrolled, thank you, patrolled by officers. So if they see anyone that's doing something that's not right, I'm pretty sure they'll stop them regardless of where the statue is.
And they've
Well,
done
that's
a very
never-
good,
there's
they-
never- really
they've done
never-
a good job of patrolling our community.
Right, and
Yes.
really anywhere, it's never 24-hour surveillance.
That's
I
correct.
think the officer that we've got here amongst us will say that that holds a lot of validity, but it also has got a lot of holes in it. Those places cannot be protected by citizens because citizens will be asleep. Traffic won't be asleep. Traffic continues through the community, goes up and down Krill Avenue here, it goes up and down Highway 17 and Highway 19. The police department are great, they do a good job, but you put it someplace out of the way, they're gonna visit it once every 12 hours, once every 6 hours. I think Joe can maybe help me with that, but there are places that the protection of that statue need to be considered. And I relate back to the one that was moved to the fish camp in Clay County, where it was vandalized as soon as it got there.
So, and you made a point, and if I may, and I believe Joe would understand this, that we look at natural surveillance too. So citizens are part of a natural surveillance program. People see things, they pick up the phone, they call it. See something, say something.
That's what I was alluding to.
So that can be anywhere in this county.
Right.
So it just really depends, but those decisions are left to this committee to look at. If I may, to help you, I know you can't see, but yeah, so this is what I have without printing a list or being able to print a list. So when I go to the county property appraiser site, obviously there's some properties here like the Ark, and you'll see others that fall under Putnam County government owned. There are properties that have unassigned locations. So I'm just going to show you the depth that we have to look at to start analyzing these different properties. I can get a list from the property appraiser's office. This is only one idea to show you. This is 3 acres of property. I'm going to give you a map to show you where it is. I think it's in Interlochen somewhere. So again, there's a lot of properties that the county does own, and I think that list would be very exhaustive to look at. There's just a lot of properties. I can provide that list to this committee and have the committee go through it and see if there's any locations that they would like to see. I'm waiting for this program to load. It's a very large program to load. And I may not, so while it's still thinking, so this doesn't have a 911 address, but it is in Interlochen Lakes Estates. So it's in the unincorporated area of Putnam County near Interlochen. It is 3 acres, and it looks like it's in a subdivision based on its parcel number that, yes, it would be in Interlochen Lakes Estates. So that's what you're going to get when you start looking at these properties that are owned by Putnam County. You're going to get 0.23 acres, 0.10 acre, 3 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres. What we have, though, for the list of parks are something they're truly maintained and already designated. These have not yet been, although the board can do what they want with it. That list is large, so I just need direction from the committee as to if you want a list of those properties and addresses. I can then show you how to look on this property appraiser site to look at the property itself.
I would like a list, and I, on my own time, will go and look at those properties. But however, I would like it to remain an option.
Sure.
If you will.
Okay, I'll send a list to the committee on county-owned properties.
Jim,
Yes, ma'am.
is there a way through this vehicle to distinguish those properties that are county-owned by virtue of the fact that there's a tax deed, a tax certificate that's not been paid?
That may be difficult to do. There's going to be research that's required. So, and I'm glad this did come up. So when we look at this property here in Interlochen Lakes, ma'am, it did finally come up, and if I can show you on the map, this is another issue that we need to address, is that not all the properties are developable. I'm sorry, not all the properties can be developed. So this incorporates a lake. It also incorporates wetlands.
Yes.
And so with properties that are not developed, before the county could put something on that property, we'd have to determine whether there would be wetlands there and whether it be in a floodplain. And a lot of our property that we have is in a wetland. I should say a lot. There are quite a few lots and areas that are in wetlands and floodplains. To be in a wetland, to do something like that, we may need permission from the Water Management District, from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, to get a permit in order to put something there, because it would be a construction that would be taking place. So once we start looking past the ones that are pretty well checked off from all those areas already, there's a lot more work, and you may select, say number 6 is property 123 Northwest 5th Street. But we look at that later and we can't use it because of a flood issue. We can't use it because it's a wetland. So I just want y'all to be cautious in that thought process that some of these properties are just not usable because of the current characteristics of the property. Yes, ma'am.
Would it be helpful to flip it around and determine which types of properties are not viable? For instance, boat ramps. I would take that off the table.
Okay.
Just because it's so close to the river and the water. Would that be helpful if we determine that as a committee to, process of elimination?
Well, each of the boat ramps, too, may have additional property that are attached to it. So don't just picture the boat ramp itself leading into the water. In many places, there's parking areas, and there may be property that's part of that parcel. So we may have only used a small portion, but there's undeveloped that's there. So I don't want to mislead you to say that it's just a boat ramp. Well, it'll be more than that in some cases. Some cases we don't have very much
Still really close
parking.
to the water, though.
It could be,
for
much like
flooding
Veterans Park.
Yeah.
Right. Or to a wetland. Could be. Yes, ma'am.
Are we to assume that if it is to be moved, that the county is going to
Are you-
fix other things around it, or is they just gonna take it and put it on a slab? What are we to assume about that? Sorry.
So I think to best answer your question, if I may, the board is going to receive our decisions. They will analyze it, and they will then move forward with a decision. If there's money available, obviously there needs to be a site plan that's done. There needs to be evaluation of the property. You're looking at a very heavy monument, so there has to be an appropriate slab, engineering studies done. So there's a lot that's in play there that's
Well,
going
that's
to have
what
to
I'm
be
getting
looked
at.
at.
I'm disappointed that this committee is not going to be, if it's smooth, part of that process to see whether or not it can actually be moved without being damaged.
Again, that's not our charge.
I know. I'm just saying, I'm disappointed that the committee's not part of
I understand.
that.
That comes with number one, leave it where it's at.
Right.
Okay, so county properties, I'll be glad to give you that list. And again, there's gonna, I don't know how I can get it done properly other than maybe, I don't have to see from the property appraiser's office, a street address. Some of them don't have street addresses, so it may just be a parcel number. And if that's the case, then I can show or provide direction on how to use the property appraiser site by putting the parcel number in there and pulling it up. I can tell you it's a very laborious process. It's a very slow, large-moving program, and to do each parcel will take you a very long time.
What is our time confines here to give you the three that we've been charged with?
We do not. Again, if you look back at the motion, we're just been charged to bring back decisions. I referenced to you, just so you can have it in the back of your mind, that we would have an opportunity for a county commission meeting on the 13th, on the 27th. There are 2 in November. We have 1 or 2 in December, whatever the board calendar is. So there are board meetings. I just wanted you to know, so that's a month out for at least this month, looking at our meetings, and then there are meetings each month subsequently.
Are you going
seemed-
to report to the commissioners at what we have done so far?
I think they're watching now, and,
Oh.
and we'll get to.
No.
Well, there will also be a report here. No, ma'am, I won't, unless there's a vote that's been taken, then I will go back to the board, to the chair, and at your direction, how that message is delivered, I would deliver it for you.
Again, I think we're stalled right here at 5. We're stalled at the time-consuming portion of you laboriously looking at places that might even be fictitious, through a series of computer scans and talking with tax assessors and looking at, the process that would include the drainage, the site prep and so forth. I think we've narrowed it down to where we got 5 valuable assets here that we could possibly amend if something else comes up in the interim that would call this group back together again. But we've got 5 good places right there. I think that we should narrow it down to 5, vote on it, and give it to the board.
So, again, it's the direction of this committee that I return to you locations for county properties. Is that correct? Is that what I'm seeing? Am I getting a head shake? Because I've only had one that's asked for it. But do the rest of the committee want that? Is that the direction that the committee wants me to take?
I, for one, no.
So I just need direction from the committee. So we can vote on it? We can. I just need clear direction. I don't want to do something that the committee doesn't want me to do. That's a lot of work, and I don't mind doing it, and I will. Don't get me wrong. That's part of my job. But I just need direction.
I just want to explore all options. That's what I'm asking for.
If you'd like to make a motion, yes, ma'am?
I'd like to make a motion to explore other empty county-owned lots as a selection to vote on for the 3 to recommend to the Board of Commissioners.
Can I ask you to add to that you receive a list from county staff for all?
I would also like to receive a list from county staff with those empty property lots.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? No, it fails as a lack of a second.
I'd like to make a motion on the floor that we go ahead and absolve this and vote on the 5 that are there, eliminate it to 3, and present it to the board.
Are you making a motion, sir?
Yes, I am.
Can you state your motion again?
The motion is to look at the 5 that you've got on your board. This board, even though it's -1 member, it still fits into the quorum of the board making a decision, and present the top 3 to the Board of Commissioners for their look at and approval or disapproval. If there's something that comes up that's disapproved of the 3 that we hand to them, then it should come back maybe to the board to find a problem with the one that they say won't work and find another one.
Okay. You heard a motion. Is there a second? Not hearing a second, it dies as a failure of a second motion.
So we all resolve ourselves to be here for months.
Sir, we're going to be here until the committee decides.
Just
on
under
location.
discussion there, I don't think we resolved ourselves to that at all, Mr. Wade. I think what we are, at least I am resolved in, is this is an extremely important position or decision that affects this county in ways that we may not even be considering. Ideas came up today that I had not personally thought of that is opening my mind a little bit for some different options. Again, I don't want to per se kick this can down the road, but I think that trying to hit the 13th County Commission meeting, I think October 13th, I do think that
That's Tuesday of next week.
Yes, sir. I do think that the October 27th meeting of the County Commission may be a viable option for us, but I personally would like to have time to consider this. And in keeping in mind that under Sunshine, we may not discuss this with each other. However, we may discuss it with non-panel members. And we may want to use the option of using some of our fellow citizens as sounding boards with these. So I'd propose that we slow this down just a bit. Let's not make any rash decisions here. And, but also let's do focus in on wrapping this up.
Okay.
And I do agree. I'd also like to just kind of remind us as the reason that we're here today. And I'm not going to rehash anything, but the reason that we are here where we are, because there are concerns within our community, and those to me cannot be overlooked. And going back with the information that I do have, I do agree with Joe, because I would have never even considered some of this. And so, and I tried to do my duty before I came by talking with people that I think that really would have had a lot of reasonable input into today, because I did not know how long. I didn't feel like we would come up with the final decision today anyway. But I am appreciative of all of the input that we brought to the table today. And I agree that I would like to go ahead and begin to get a feel within the community and then come back. And I think that maybe 1, maybe 2 more sessions, and I think we would be able to give our list to the Board of County Commissioners.
I concur in a lot you say there, but my getting your consensus of the community is no less than giving a vote by the community itself. A vote that we denied or were denied by the county commission.
Mr. Wade, do you understand that's not in our purview today?
I understand, but it's also a point of discussion.
So let me just say this. I know I mentioned these commission meetings, and I only did that not to tell you only had a few days to look at. You take the time that you need. I'm just giving you that as a reference of what's coming up, so you can have that in your thought process when you make your decision. So we've talked about 5 locations. We are at 12:30. Yeah, we did have some breaks through there to get some information a little longer. So I don't know how long you all want to go today. I don't know where you are. Is this a good time to stop to say, hey, we have 5 locations. Let's think about that. Let's go back. Let's talk to whomever we need to. Obviously, not ourselves unless we're here. So if that's the direction that we want to take, if there are no other locations to put on here now, I'm just throwing that out just from a time management standpoint. And if that's the case, as a second meeting, I would ask that before we left here today, if we could, to identify our next meeting time. So I leave that to the discussion of the committee.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, who went first? Yes, ma'am.
For the next meeting, will it still be open to add to the list?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Again, we haven't stopped adding.
Okay.
or taking away. We've only voted on one option.
Right.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, somebody here had a
Oh, I
request?
just want you to flip the list back so that I make sure that I haven't missed something.
Right, I think,
We didn't add anything else, and y'all can see it.
yeah, just for a point of clarification, so unless we reverse the previous motion and vote, then we have two more locations to try to identify because keeping it at the courthouse has been voted on as a potential, so we're missing two.
I'm assuming you're right, Joe.
That's correct.
And I'll send this to you all. I
Okay,
will,
thank you.
I'll send this to you all, so you can have it. Veterans Park, I shouldn't say Triangle Park. It's,
Yeah.
That's what we know.
John, yeah, Theobold.
Government Complex, Courthouse Annex, and the Melrose Park. So what do you think? Where do you want to go from here?
I motion we adjourn.
Okay, but before we get there,
Ah.
if I could, because we've got some things about a next meeting, and we've got things that we have to do before we motion to adjourn, if I may. So for our next meeting, I guess that's where we are. So can we look at our calendars? Is that something we can do today to identify
Yes.
what would be good? And the only thing I will do before we take a vote on that and to leave, I just need to walk up front and just make sure that the boardroom will be open for the day that we're looking at. I wouldn't look at a Tuesday. Obviously, the 13th is not going to be a day that we could use this next week. So, and of course, we'll ask Danny that's not here. We'll get him tuned into that. I'll call him. So for next week, that's the week of the 12th. We have Monday the 12th. The 13th is out because the board does have a second meeting in the afternoon. So we have the 14th. So the 12th, the 14th, the 15th, or the 16th.
I recommend the 16th.
Another Friday. Okay, the same time?
Yes.
9 o'clock?
Yes.
Yes, that's fine.
I'm sorry, yes, sir, the 16th, can you call for me?
That's next month, obviously, right?
No,
This month?
no, that's not next month, that's next week.
Next week.
So there may be the Value Adjustment Board may be meeting that day in here.
What about the 15th?
So the 16th is not a good day. How about the 15th?
Right.
I'm good with that if it's
The
available.
15th is fine.
15th is a Thursday.
I'm babysitting that day.
It's fine if it's in
Sir,
the
I'm sorry?
morning.
Jacob, what about the 15th? Very good.
Oh.
So far it's open until we reserve it.
And would the meeting start at?
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, if that's a good time for you all.
I mean, 10 o'clock, no, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Retired
if
people.
that's what you want
10
as a
o'clock
meeting time.
sounds fine for retired people, but 9, I'll work with you.
Like I said, I'm babysitting that day, so.
So is that good for us? Our next meeting would be
The 15th.
Thursday, October the 15th.
I'm fine with it.
At 9 o'clock?
Can we leave here with a determination that this group is going to look around and come up with any other Putnam County-owned properties that might want to go on that board, but still look at, with the chair's approval, of looking at not going over 10. I mean, we could put it 15, 20 and be here forever, but, you know, we've got 5, and I think they're qualified. But to come up with 5 more, and then we've got, and we could vote on them, and
Well, so it really be left up to the decision of this committee that you, sir, are part of. So if this committee comes back with 8 new suggestions, I think we have the responsibility of vetting each. Some of these we vetted very quickly. And so I think we have that responsibility, but of course, that decision's left up to this committee, not me. So I just want to say then, October the 15th at 9 a.m. will be our next meeting. As I look back on my notes, I had a request for the Waterways Committee, their intent for Veterans Park documentation, request to determine whether the board, or what properties the board does own here on the government complex, as well as the lease and determining whether the lease will prohibit us from taking any new, by placing a statute here.
You're talking about where the torpedo is, excuse me?
No, sir, here at government complex.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's,
These were questions that were posed.
Okay,
I just want to
I got you.
firm those up before I move any further. Are there any other needs of the committee? I will send you an email with the date and time. I will get this information and I'll put it in the email and send it to you so you can have it. Yes, ma'am?
One more I'm going to add to your list. I'm sorry, Jim.
Okay.
I know that there was some concern about if we chose Veterans Park, about the elevation. So can you get us a map that overlays the elevation?
Yeah, I can get a topo of that.
Yeah, just
that
get a
area.
topo.
Yes.
Nothing, I don't need any civil engineering. I just need to know, obviously we can all ride out there and look at it, but it would be interesting to know.
I can do that right now for you.
Right, and
the topo.
what we're after, I think what she's after and what I'm certainly after is not just the local day-to-day high tide and low tide. We're looking at the flood elevation.
I can give that to you in a thumbnail sketch right now. So
Yeah,
give
we
me-
should have done that at the time. I apologize.
Not a problem.
But since you were going over your homework list, I figured.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let me go there. All right, there's our property in question.
Right.
Going to look for wetlands. And again, this is obviously the wetlands are around it, and based on this, and again, this is just a rough estimate. It looks like there are no wetland exposures on the area itself, so it's free of wetlands.
I don't think that would come under a decision by the Corps of Engineers. We'd have to give you something there.
That's our park. We have the authority to render that unless it was in a wetland or that we were actually going to be putting it in the water. And let me look at your
Contour.
floodplain.
Yes.
Do you know if there's still derelict boats?
There are some around there. Yes, ma'am.
I think there are two.
So it isn't a floodplain. It's in AE. So that just means as we move it that any new development, as we place that, if that's the location that this committee chose, hypothetically, we would have to ensure through our floodplain manager that the statute was high enough, 3 feet, whatever the level that's determined to get it above the floodplain, or we need to get it elevated to a certain height. So that would be left up to, and I can ask what that is, and bring that back to this committee. So that's an easy thing to do.
Okay.
But again, keep in mind, as I mentioned to you before, wetlands and floodplains, they all pose issues. Not that we can't overcome them, but they pose issues. Delays, permitting, potentially. I don't see that as being the case here at all. So I will add to this list floodplain for Veterans Park. Got it.
And I'd like to know if there's any derelict boats close to that property.
Well, you certainly can drive by and see if you would like. I know there's a derelict boat, so if you look at, because I drive there every day, there's a boat that's right, there's one here. I think there's two in this cove. There's one that's all the way over here against, way on the other side
No,
of the
I
river.
mean up against the causeway.
There are two that are there, and eventually derelict boats can be addressed by the county as we
Right.
look for that. So I understand that point. But yes, there are at least two, if I remember correctly.
And I
vessels
saw
that are there.
two this morning.
Yep.
I'm in here.
Okay, so I have that.
That was me and
I have my my 4 homework assignments. I do have our next meeting on Thursday, October 15th. And before I move any farther, I just want to see where my agenda So I have my next meeting. Any other needs that we have of this committee?
I just want to make one clarification, make sure I'm totally clear, that for the next meeting, before that one, we had the opportunity to not only research these further, but to consider other options that weren't even presented.
That's correct.
Okay.
So just to add on to what Joe mentioned, so as your discussions, as your life continues between now and our next meeting on Thursday of next week, somebody comes to you and says, hey, I got this property, it's county owned, go look at it, you do, you like it, we'll add it to the list. And that gives us the opportunity to vet it. And then as a committee, ladies and gentlemen, ultimately we're going to have to vote on what our next two options are going to be and ultimately make a decision to the board. So there's going to have to be a time that we're going to say, I think we've exhausted all of our options and let's start culling them down to what we need.
All right, now you've looked at giving, if you will, the county properties to one of this board.
I'm sorry?
You've looked at giving the vacant county properties.
We decided against that.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Okay. End of question.
Now, you all can go online to the property appraiser site, do exactly like I did, and you could look at any property that you want.
Public information.
It's absolutely available
Right.
anytime,
Right.
day or night.
I'm just looking at not, if that would have been approved and went through, then we could be here for weeks as we
Again,
look at.
again, your point is well taken. Yes, sir. Any other things for the good of the order? Hearing none. Again, our meeting is next Thursday. Is there anything? No? Anything from the audience? Okay, without, I will go ahead and call this meeting to close, and I will look forward to seeing you all next week. So we're closing the meeting at 12:39 p.m. And thank you very much for what we've done today. Y'all have a great weekend. See you next week.
Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome. Thank you all.